specific set of notes and a transcript from a YouTube video. It's all focused on one big idea: how teenagers might become millionaires.
Right. So our mission here is to take this source material, this one perspective, and really, drill down, pull out the main strategies, the insights that the creator shared.
Yeah, what are those nuggets of knowledge? It's not about saying we agree with it all, but understanding the framework they're laying out.
Exactly. Understand this take on young wealth creation.
And the starting point, it's pretty bold. The source suggests becoming a millionaire young. It might be simple, not easy, mind you, but simple. Requires a different way of thinking, apparently. Less complex math, more strategy. And using tools you already have, like your phone, for more than just scrolling.
Okay, so where do they start? What's the foundation?
Well, the source kicks things off by saying the absolute most crucial thing is truly believing there's, and I quote, so much money out there.
That belief is foundational.
Yeah, and they're pretty blunt about it. If you don't believe that, the source argues, well, that's a huge barrier. It holds you back.
So, not getting that reality check.
Yeah.
It leads to excuses.
That's the idea. Blaming, the government, the economy, whatever, instead of looking at what's actually happening and figuring out your part.
Right. So the alternative mindset they push is taking responsibility. Radical responsibility, you could say.
Exactly. And instead of hating on wealthy people, learn from them. They mention the source's mentor, this guy Dave Monk.
Spending time with people like that, having those, quote, high-level conversations.
Yeah. The core idea seems to be shifting from seeing wealth as scarce, something to complain about, to seeing it as abundant, something you can tap into. Changes your whole focus.
From complaint to opportunity, okay?
And this belief, it connects directly to spotting those opportunities. The source makes a strong point. You don't need to, reinvent the wheel.
So it's about finding where the money's already moving.
Pretty much. Position yourself in that flow. They give examples like crypto projects during the big craze.
Right, not necessarily building the core tech, but capturing the money flowing into that space.
Or Uber didn't invent taxis, just made getting one easier, cheaper.
So the insight isn't about pure invention. It's about identifying those money flows and figuring out how to get involved.
Okay, so that's the mindset. Moving on to strategy. Tip 2 challenges a lot of what you normally hear. The source says, don't focus on saving.
Right. Now, they're quick to say, this isn't permission to be, totally irresponsible. It's about using money strategically, especially when you're young. Time is maybe your biggest asset then, more than capital.
The source author talks about their own story, right? Millionaire in their 20s.
Yeah, while still, traveling a lot, becoming a pilot, race car driving, building businesses.
So major financial success without feeling, deprived.
Exactly. Which they contrast with what they call the slow way.
The classic online advice. Invest $50 a week from age 16 in the S&P 500.
Yeah. And maybe hit $1 million by 65. Which, the source argues, just isn't that exciting for a young person aiming higher, faster. So the crucial part of their argument is this idea of baby money.
Baby money.
Yeah, like that initial capital you have, small investments are good, build the habit, but don't lock up all that early money. You need some of it to test side hustles, business ideas.
Because that's where the source sees the real potential for big money for young people.
That's the claim, those entrepreneurial tests. Having maybe a 6-month emergency fund helps you take those calculated risks without, total disaster if something fails.
Okay, so the insight is seeing that early cash as fuel for experiments, not just something to squirrel away for decades.
Right. It's a balance.
Yeah.
Using both the fast and slow lanes, as they put it. Strategic spending, testing ideas, not hoarding, but also not wasting money on pointless stuff. Or even denying yourself small things like a coffee, if it fits the bigger picture.
Makes sense. So this leads into tip 3, which is maybe the biggest culture clash point in the source.
Yes. Quit drinking.
Yeah. Pretty direct challenge to typical youth culture. Why? What are the reasons given?
They're very pragmatic. 1, it wastes time and energy, which are crucial. 2, it's expensive.
Okay.
3, it's a depressant, so it hinders peak performance, thinking clearly, physically doing things. And 4, hangovers just kill productivity.
Right. The source really hammers home that your youth, your energy, your time, that's your absolute greatest asset. So spending years pouring that asset down the drain with alcohol just makes zero sense if your big goal is wealth building.
They even share a personal story, the author does, about how choosing not to drink actually led to more respect and finding enjoyment in other things like golf. productive hobbies.
Interesting. So the insight is protect that time and energy above all. Drinking is just a major drain.
Yeah. The approach suggested is fix the money situation first, get that sorted, then you have the freedom to enjoy things later.
Although they do add once you taste that freedom wealth brings.
You might just prefer focusing on growing it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, drinking is framed as a big distraction from bigger goals.
Okay. Moving on. Tip number 4. This one feels a bit surprising, especially after talking about phones having everything. Buy a luxury watch.
Yeah, seems counterintuitive, right? Why spend that money when your phone tells the time?
Exactly.
Well, the source gives 3 main reasons. First, conversation starter, networking tool.
How so?
Successful people often notice and appreciate nice watches. It can open doors, spark conversations. They mention their own Discord group, Strike It Big, as another place for intentional networking. The watch is like a physical networking token.
Okay, networking. What else?
Second, certain ones are presented as actual assets. They can hold value, even appreciate over time.
So not just telling time, but potentially growing your money. They mention specific models.
Yeah, Rolexes mostly. GMT Master 2, Daytona, Submariner. Examples known for holding value or going up. But they stress you have to do your research.
Right, not just any expensive watch.
And the third point is a bit more technical. Potentially transporting wealth across borders. Though they do add the important note you technically have to declare it.
Got it. So networking, potential asset, maybe portability. It's multifaceted.
Yeah, the insight is it's a status symbol that, unlike many luxuries, can hold or increase its value.
But they also warn you, right, be careful where you wear it.
Oh, absolutely. Huge warning about theft risk. You have to learn to move in a different way, they say. Don't be flashy or careless in the wrong places.
Right, don't get cocky.
Exactly. And they contrast it with things like, expensive cars, Lambos that depreciate fast. Plus, they mention it's getting harder to buy these popular watches at retail. So building a relationship with a dealer when you're young could actually be strategic for the future.
Interesting angle. Okay, tip 5 takes a different turn. Personal development. Destroy your ego.
Yeah. How does ego get in the way of making money?
Well, the source's view is pretty clear. Arrogance makes you unwilling to learn, especially from people doing better than you.
Right. They use that Gordon Ramsay example, kitchen nightmares.
Yeah, those stubborn restaurant owners whose places are failing, but they just won't take his advice.
That's the idea. Ego makes you blind to feedback, blind to learning what you need to know.
So the fix is self-reflection. Figure out your weaknesses.
Yeah, identify weaknesses, then make a plan to improve. And the source points out there's just so much free information now, thousands of expert videos online teaching high-value skills.
Like public speaking, storytelling, things that help in business and life.
Exactly. And these skills kind of stack up. They apply everywhere.
The author shares their own story again here, don't they, about school?
Finding things like algebra less useful for their goals back then. So they used free time to teach themselves business basics from books.
And combine that with a passion, RC models.
Right, and built a multi-million-dollar company. The insight is, be humble enough to learn what you need for your path, even if it's outside the standard curriculum.
Okay, good point. Now, tip 6 brings us back to finance. Build a credit score.
Right. The source argues, unless you've got a trust fund, you kind of need leverage or good debt. Challenges that old, neither a borrower nor a lender be idea.
Why is good debt necessary, in their view?
Because smart borrowing, leverage, can help you sort of boost your financial status faster than just using the cash you earn.
Yeah.
A credit score is basically just a trust score. A reliability rating banks use, they use an analogy, like a friend lending you $5, you pay it back, so next time they lend you 20, then 50, you build trust.
Right. It shows you're reliable with borrowed money.
But they really stress. It takes years to build a good score.
And you can wreck it super fast with bad habits.
Exactly. So responsible borrowing, paying on time, that builds the history lenders want to see.
What are the practical steps they suggest?
Start small. Maybe a phone contract in your own name first. Then get a credit card at 18 if you can. Or maybe be an authorized user on a parent's card to start building history.
And there are rules for using credit well.
Yeah, they get 3 key ones. 1, always make payments on time. That's the biggest factor.
Critical.
2, keep your credit utilization low. Don't max out your cards. Staying below 30% of your limit is a good general rule. High utilization looks like you're struggling.
Makes sense. And the 3rd?
Don't apply for tons of credit all at once. Makes you look desperate to lenders. Apply strategically when you need it.
Got it. Build trust slowly and carefully. Okay, tip 7 is about what you actually do for money. Follow the money.
Yeah, this was pretty pragmatic. It suggests doing only what you love. That might not make you rich.
Ouch! So passion isn't enough.
Not always for big financial success, according to this source. You need to balance passion with practicality. Learn to flip the script, they say.
Flip the script. How?
Identify skills that are actually in demand. Find industries or jobs where money is really flowing, where people are spending. Then figure out how your skills, maybe even your passions, can fit into that.
Find the intersection of what you can do and what the market pays for. They give examples.
Yeah, Rick Shields, the golf guy, really good golfer, knew he probably wouldn't make the big pro tour. So he combined his golf skill with, his personality, his drama skills, and tech knowledge to build this huge golf YouTube channel and coaching business.
Smart. Leverage the passion, but found a different market for it.
Exactly. And the author's son, Curtis, loved making videos. Started with YouTube.
But pivoted.
Yeah, pivoted to commercial stuff, weddings, ads, then niched down even more to making videos for business coaches, because that's where he saw the most money.
And now he partners on the main channel, too.
Right. Blending the passion with a very lucrative niche he identified. The insight is adaptability. Find where your passion is valued financially, even if it's a specific niche.
Okay, really practical advice there. Finally, tip number 8. This one feels contradictory again.
Become a quitter.
Yeah, after all the talk about working hard, now they say quit.
Why is quitting sometimes good for success?
It's about the sunk cost fallacy. They use a great analogy. The movie ticket. Oh, right. You bought the ticket, the money's gone, the movie is terrible.
Do you stay and waste 2 more hours just because you already spent the money? Or do you cut your losses and leave?
You should leave. The money's already spent. Don't waste your time, too.
Exactly. That's the sunk cost fallacy. Staying in a bad situation just because you've already invested time, energy, or money, it's irrational. The insight is that past investment shouldn't dictate future decisions if something clearly isn't working.
So apply that to a project, a business idea.
Or even an investment, yeah. If it's clearly not working out, despite your efforts.
Cut your losses. Quit that specific thing so you can redirect your resources, time, energy, money somewhere potentially better.
Precisely. Don't keep throwing good money or time after bad. Quitting the wrong thing frees you up for the right thing.
Okay, so wrapping it all up, the source's overall message seems to be, making that first million, it's tough, requires work.
Definitely not easy.
But the approach, the framework, can be simple. It involves that mindset shift, strategic use of resources, specific skills.
And really leveraging your youth, your time and energy. That's the big advantage. And they do suggest you can do both, right? Work on building wealth young and start that long-term investing for generational wealth too. Not necessarily either.
Right. So we've covered a lot here from this one source. Mindset shifts, strategic spending, not saving in the traditional sense, quitting drinking, luxury watches as tools, destroying ego, building credit, following the money, knowing when to quit. Quite a range.
It really emphasizes thinking differently, acting strategically with what you've got, especially that time and energy when you're young.
Definitely a different perspective than you might hear elsewhere.
Which leaves us maybe with a final thought for you, the listener, sort of chew on. Given all these points from the source, finding where money flows, matching skills to demand, think about those examples. Rick Shields, Curtis. How might you, right now, identify where your unique mix of skills, interests, maybe even passions, intersects with the real flow of money in today's world? Where's that sweet spot for you?
That's a really good question to end on. Something practical to take away and think about. Thanks for diving into this source material with us today.
Okay, let's unpack this. You sent over a bunch of sources that really challenge that whole idea, the one most of us kind of grew up with.
That traditional path, trading your time for dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Get the job, work the hours, clock in, clock out, day after day.
And what's really interesting in this material is how they argue that model, well, it's not just about limiting your time, it actually caps your earning potential.
Right, because you've only got so many hours, you can only sell each hour once. Which brings us right to this concept. The source material really hammers home passive income.
Yeah, the core idea there is finding ways to get money flowing in without you having to be constantly actively working for it right then and there.
And they're pretty specific, these sources, about what they mean by real passive income.
They are. It's not just like watching your stock portfolio go up on paper.
Right.
It's actual money. Cash landing in your bank account, ideally every month, without needing to sell the thing that's making the money.
It's that regular cash flow.
That's the key, that ongoing stream.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive, dig through all this material, pull out the key stuff on 7 specific passive income ideas they talk about.
And we're going to look at what they say about the time involved, the money needed,
and that crucial rating they give. How easy is it, really, to make, say, a basic $100 a week from each of these?
We've pulled together the main points, the examples from your sources, so let's just jump right in. Where should we start?
Let's kick off with investing in stocks. But there's a really important distinction the source makes right away.
Oh, yeah.
They say just buying a stock and hoping the price goes up. That's not really passive income in their book.
Right, because you don't actually get the cash until you sell. They see that more as a bonus, like capital appreciation.
Exactly. So for passive income from stocks, they focus squarely on dividend stocks.
Okay, explain that a bit.
Well, the idea is you buy shares, small pieces of established companies. They mention examples like Starbucks, Pepsi.
McDonald's, yeah. Companies making profits.
And these companies actually pay out a slice of those profits directly to you, the shareholder, on a regular basis. That payment, the dividend, that's the passive cash flow they're talking about.
Got it. So it's separate from whether the stock price itself goes up or down. You're getting actual cash payments.
Right. And I thought their little ranking system for these was kind of neat.
Oh, yeah. The kings and aristocrats.
Yeah. Dividend kings companies that have upped their dividend payouts for 50 years straight.
Impressive consistency.
Then dividend aristocrats, 25 years of increases. And then everything else they sort of lump into dividend working class.
And they add a little warning there, right? Especially about those super high dividend yields.
Yeah, they caution that sometimes those really high percentages might not be sustainable long term, which makes sense if you want consistent income.
Absolutely. Consistency is key. So, okay, let's look at their ratings for dividend stocks. Time required.
I give it a 1 out of 5. Super easy time-wise.
Basically, download an app, put money in, buy stocks.
Pretty much. But then, money required.
That gets a 5 out of 5. The highest rating.
Yeah, this is the big hurdle. You need a lot of money invested to get any kind of significant income flowing.
And that links to the next rating, ease of making $100 a week.
Also a 5 out of 5, which sounds great, but it's easy if, and it's a big if, you already have the money.
Right. They give that Starbucks example, didn't they?
They did. Starbucks paying around, 2.4% annual dividend yield at the time they wrote it.
Okay.
To make $5,200 a year, that's your $100 a week, you'd need to have, get this, about $216,666 invested just in Starbucks stock.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, the insight here is pretty clear. Dividend stocks, great option if you've already got significant capital just sitting there.
Very low time commitment, but requires deep pockets to start generating that passive income.
Exactly. So what if you don't have a couple $100,000 lying around? What's next?
Well, the source then pivots. They say, okay, maybe leverage your time and skills instead of just money, which leads to idea number 2. Automating a side hustle.
Ah, okay. So this is different from, say, a traditional job or even a regular side gig where you're capped by hours.
Right. They use that example of their friend Jamie, the dog trainer.
Yeah, he could only train so many dogs himself, right? His earnings were directly tied to his working hours.
He was selling his time. The goal here is totally different. Use your time up front to build something, a digital asset.
Like Jamie making an online dog training course or writing an ebook.
Exactly. Or maybe a detailed blog about dog care, something that, once built, can generate income more passively.
So what are the steps they lay out?
First, figure out your skill, or what they call your unfair advantage, something you know or can do well.
Okay.
Then you invest the time, probably a lot of time, building that digital thing, the course, the ebook, whatever.
You get it online, a website, presumably.
Yep, put it online. And then, crucially, you have to market it effectively. They really emphasize social media here.
Mentioning things like viral TikToks for getting the word out.
Yeah, how that can give you massive reach. And they also mentioned putting it online isn't as daunting now. You can use all-in-one platforms.
Drag and drop builders, AI website tools.
Right. Things that make it easier if you're not super techie. Though WordPress is still an option if you are.
Makes sense. Okay, what about the ratings for this one? Automating a side hustle. Time.
This is interesting. Time gets a 5 out of 5 if you do everything manually.
The hardest rating.
But they say it drops to a 3 out of 5 if you use those easier platforms or AI builders. Still, building the asset and website takes real time up front.
Okay. Money required.
That gets a 1 out of 5. Least expensive.
So low cost to start. Maybe just website hosting, depending on the product.
Right. But then ease of making $100 a week.
Let me guess. Also low initially.
You got it. 1 out of 5. They rate this the hardest to get going initially.
Ah, okay. That word initially is key. Hardest at first, but what happens after?
Exactly. They clarify that once it's built and running, making $100 a week can actually become pretty easy, assuming you've priced it right. Like, if you have a $25 product, you only need 4 sales a week.
Yeah.
That feels achievable once the system's in place.
And they mentioned daily promotion helps, and if something goes viral, boom.
Yeah, sales could really take off. So the big insight here,
Mm.
huge time investment up front, very low money needed to start, and it's tough to get that first $100 week.
But potentially much easier income flow after you've done that heavy lifting.
Totally contrasts with dividend stocks.
Yeah.
This seems like the path if you have more time than money to start.
Definitely. It's about building that asset using your own effort, your sweat equity, rather than just cash.
Which leads nicely into the third idea, which also uses time and the internet. Making online content.
Ah, the creator economy. Yeah, the source talks about how the internet basically broke open the doors for individuals.
Right. Before, advertising money mostly went to big media companies. Now, individuals can get a slice.
Through things like YouTube videos, blogs, podcasts, you create the content, you can potentially earn from ads or sponsorships.
They mentioned the YouTube Partner Program requirements needing, 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to start monetizing with ads.
And a huge point they make is that content acts like a long-term asset.
Yeah, that video you made years ago could still be making you money today. Same with an old blog post.
So what's their advice for actually succeeding at this?
Couple of key things. One, make good content. Obvious, maybe, but crucial. But also, make content that's designed for the algorithm of whatever platform you're using.
That's smart, understanding how the platform promotes stuff.
And get honest feedback, not just from your mom or your best friend.
People who will actually tell you what's not working.
Exactly. Also, pick a medium you actually like, writing, video, audio, whatever, and pick a niche.
Right, so people know what to expect from you, like a specific topic. Makes sponsorships easier too, presumably.
Yeah, and be consistent. Post regularly.
And you don't need fancy gear to start.
Yep. They say just consume a lot of content in your niche, see what works, learn from others, and then add your own spin.
Okay, makes sense. Let's hit the ratings for content creation. Time.
Uh-oh. 5 out of 5 again. Extremely time-consuming.
They gave an example, didn't they? Like how long a video takes.
Yeah, said a single video could easily take over 5 days to script, film, edit, everything.
Wow. Okay. Money required.
Back down to 1 out of 5. Super cheap to start. They specifically say don't buy the fancy camera right away.
Okay. And ease of making $100 a week.
Also 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
Rated very hard. Again, initially.
But there's always a but with these hard ones, isn't there?
Yes. The insight here is, while the upfront work is immense, they call the long-term potential insane.
Insane. Strong word.
Yeah, they even say making over $100 a day is possible within months if you gain traction.
Yeah.
And they argue the high difficulty actually reduces competition.
Because most people just won't stick with that level of effort consistently over time.
Exactly. So another path. Massive time sink, low initial cost, but potentially enormous passive income payoff down the road once you've built the audience and content library.
Definitely trading time for potential future reward. Older content keeps earning too.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Moving away from building digital stuff yourself, back towards investing capital, but differently. Idea 4, private investing.
Right, so this isn't buying stocks on the public market. This is investing directly into private businesses, getting in early.
Kind of like being one of the investors on Shark Tank, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. You find a business you believe in, maybe before it gets huge or gets bought out.
And the source mentions 2 main types of these investors they see. Angels.
Right, often investing smaller amounts, maybe in people they know, not necessarily seeking control, generally seen as like nicer or more forgiving.
And then the sharks.
Deeper pockets often want a controlling stake, very confident their expertise can boost the business and their own return.
And there was that interesting angle they mentioned combining this with content or influence.
Yeah, the Ryan Reynolds example. How he acts like an angel investor but uses his massive social media following to promote the companies he invests in.
Which boosts their value, so when they exit, get sold, he gets huge passive income checks.
And the source suggests you can kind of replicate that on a smaller scale. Bringing value beyond just the money helps your investment grow.
So the process involves finding a good business. That takes time, right? Research.
Definitely. They stress taking your time, doing due diligence, don't rush it.
And asking tough questions up front, like how will they pay dividends? That's your passive income stream.
And what's their exit strategy? Because the big payday often comes when the business is sold or goes public.
Okay, so the actual money transfer is quick, but the homework takes time. What about the ratings? Time.
They give time a 2.5 out of 5, so
Yeah.
moderate. Takes time to find and vet the right opportunity.
Money required.
A 3 out of 5. This varies a lot. They mentioned personal investments from maybe $1,000 up to over $100.
Getting in super early might cost less, but carries more risk.
Makes sense. And ease of making $100 a week.
Rated 2 out of 5. So achievable, but...
Depends on a few things.
Yeah, depends on your negotiation, how much you put in, and crucially, what else you bring to the table. Can you help the business grow?
Right, because if you help increase the overall profits, there's more to pay out in dividends. They had an example, right? Investing $5K.
Yeah, invest $5K, help the business somehow, and then start getting $100 a week back in dividends.
So bringing value beyond cash is key, and they advise diversifying too, right? Making several smaller bets.
Definitely. Don't put all your eggs in one private basket. One good exit can make up for several duds.
Smart. Okay, moving on. Idea number 5, affiliate marketing.
Yeah, this one seems pretty popular online. The basic idea is simple. You promote someone else's product or service,
Using a special tracking link they give you.
and if someone clicks your link and buys, you get a commission, a cut of the sale.
The source had that story, right? About the son's girlfriend.
Yeah, she shared a link for a bank sign-up bonus with friends, made $300 in one day.
Quick cash. But they pointed out that was kind of a one-off with a limit. Real affiliate marketing usually doesn't have that cap.
Right, the potential can be much bigger. They frame this as one of the simplest online methods to start. No crazy skills needed.
Just passion for a topic, maybe, and being a bit persuasive.
Pretty much. You can often just promote stuff you already use and like, and finding programs is straightforward.
Check company websites, just ask them, or use those big affiliate platforms like impact.com they mentioned.
And how do you promote? Mostly content, right?
Yeah, writing blog posts, making social media stuff. They mentioned TikTok reviews, again, posting reviews online.
And they really stressed buying and testing the products yourself if you're reviewing them.
Builds trust. Makes your recommendation genuine. People appreciate that.
Absolutely. And they had that key principle. Give your audience more value than you get back.
Focus on helping people, not just making a quick buck. Build that trust. It takes time, though.
Yeah, they're clear. It's not get rich quick. It's patience, learning, building up that content and trust.
So how did this one rate? Time?
Affiliate marketing time got a 3.5 out of 5. So it requires real effort, especially at the start. Building content, building trust takes time. Manage expectations.
Okay. Money required.
1 out of 5.
Yeah.
Very cheap to start. Basically just need a phone or laptop and internet.
And the key one, ease of making $100 a week.
They rated that a 2 out of 5. Achievable.
Achievable. So possible without too much struggle eventually.
Seems like it. While the initial work is significant, once your content is out there getting seen, it can generate sales passively over time. That content does the work.
Like that 300-day example, once the link was shared, the effort was minimal for those specific earnings. And they mentioned average earnings potential, too.
Yeah, they cited some figures suggesting average affiliate marketers earn somewhere in the range of like $67,000 to $124,000 a year, just to give a sense of the potential scale beyond $100 a week.
Okay, so significant upfront effort, low cost, achievable passive income develops over time as the content works for you. Got it.
All right, number 6. This one feels potentially huge, but also maybe intimidating. Creating a digital tool.
Like building software or an app to solve a specific problem.
Exactly. They shared that story about a friend who built software for membership organizations.
Right, and initially he sold it as a one-time purchase, which meant constant chasing of new sales.
But then he switched to a subscription model.
Bingo! Predictable, recurring, passive income. Eventually, he even hired support staff.
Yeah, freed up his time almost completely, and then sold the whole business for millions. Pretty inspiring.
And a key point they made, you don't have to be the coder.
Right. You can be the ideas person, the business strategist, partner with a tech person.
So the first step is just finding a real problem people will pay to solve.
Then figure out who your customer is. They suggested targeting businesses might be less risky, higher revenue per customer.
And then build and test a simple version first, an MVP, minimum viable product.
Yeah. Don't spend years perfecting it in secret. Get something out there, get feedback, be ready to change it based on what users say.
Makes sense. Test the waters. And the subscription model seems key for that passive income goal, plus the potential big exit later.
How do you handle the costs, though? Building software isn't always cheap.
They suggested partnering with a coder for equity, basically giving them a piece of the potential future profits.
Or use your own money to start bootstrap it.
Yeah.
Once you have that MVP, maybe look for angel investors.
Give away some equity for funding.
Oh.
Okay, let's see the ratings for this beast. Time.
Max rating again, 5 out of 5. Hugely time-consuming. Idea generation, testing, building, iterating.
Money required.
3.5 out of 5. So yeah, the decent costs involved, but manageable with those strategies like partnership or investment.
And ease of making $100 a week.
The absolute lowest, 1 out of 5. They rate this the hardest path to actually reaching consistent passive income.
Okay, hardest to start earning. But once you do get paying customers...
Right, the math changes. If your tool costs, say, $20 a month, you only need 20 customers to hit $400 a month, which is roughly $100 a week.
And many tools charge way more than $20 and have way more than 20 customers.
Exactly. Enough to cover support, updates, and generate real profit. The source even mentioned they personally spend like $1,000 a month on different digital tools.
Shows the market is definitely there. People pay for useful software.
So the insight, massive upfront time, moderate but manageable cost, hardest to begin earning, but potentially very high scalable income once established.
A real asset-building play takes serious commitment.
Okay, last one, number 7. And this one feels, I don't know, maybe the most down-to-earth, renting out your stuff.
Yeah, leveraging things you already own. The source makes a great point. Lots of us are probably sitting on potential income streams right now.
Totally. They had that great example of the friend renting out his driveway near a train station.
Oh, yeah. How much was it? Like $70 a week per car?
Yeah. And he had space for 2 cars. So $140 a week just landing in his bank account. Pure passive income from something he already had.
That's brilliant. Makes you look around your own place differently, doesn't it?
For sure. They brainstorm other things, too. Renting out storage space, your attic, basement, cars, camping gear, camera equipment.
Garages, spare rooms on Airbnb. Even your money through peer-to-peer lending.
Right. They mentioned Prosper, with historical returns around 5.4%. Obviously, buying a second property to rent out is an option, too, but that takes big capital.
But renting out expensive gear you already own could help justify buying it in the first place.
True. And the process seems pretty simple now with apps and websites connecting owners and renters.
Yeah, they mentioned Fat Llama for gear, Turo for cars, Airbnb for spaces.
The big worry is always damage, right? Renters not taking care of your things.
Definitely a risk. But they pointed out that many of these platforms offer insurance, which is crucial protection.
Good point. Okay, ratings for renting your stuff. Time.
1 out of 5. Super easy time-wise. Take photos, list it online.
Money required.
Also 1 out of 5. Very cheap if you're renting things you already own. Costs only come in if you buy stuff to rent or need extra insurance.
And ease of making $100 a week.
Rated 2 out of 5. Achievable.
Achievable if you have stuff people want to rent.
Exactly, if you have enough desirable assets. But the insight is really about leveraging what you already have.
Low time, low initial cost. And they seem pretty confident about hitting $100 a week, especially mentioning how common it is for people to have, say, a spare room or a driveway that could easily pull that in.
Seems like a very practical place for many people to start thinking about passive income.
Wow. Okay, so that's 7 really different approaches we've dug into from this source material.
Yeah, a real range. From using money you already have with dividend stocks or assets you own with renting,
all the way to building entirely new things from scratch, digital products, online content, software tools, even investing in early-stage businesses.
And throughout, that consistent definition from the source, real passive income is cash flow, money coming in without trading time right then and without selling the asset itself.
And we saw how those ratings, time, money, ease of hitting $100 a week just varied wildly.
Totally. Some need lots of cash, low time. Others need tons of time, low cash. Some are hard to start but get easier.
It really drives home that there isn't just one right way to do this.
Absolutely. The takeaway seems to be that the best path for you probably depends entirely on where you're starting from.
What resources you have right now, more time or more money, what are you willing to put in up front?
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Instead of feeling stuck in that old time for money grind.
How might really looking at these different models, comparing the time, the money, the difficulty against your own skills, your resources, your willingness to put in the work up front, how might that help you spot a path that could actually work for you right now, rather than just following someone else's prescribed route?
Okay, so Let's unpack this. You've given us these sources, and you want the core stuff, right? Fast, thorough, no fluff.
Exactly. Get straight to the useful bits.
Right. So today we're diving into online side hustles.
It's exciting, yeah, but wow, also full of pitfalls.
It really is. Things change so fast online. And the source material, especially the YouTube transcript about what not to do, it starts with a pretty sobering stat.
Which one?
That, 65% of new businesses fail.
It's a high number.
65%. Okay, that really highlights it. If you're going to put your energy into something online, you really need to pick carefully. Avoid those known dead ends.
For sure. Saves a lot of headache later. And that's basically our mission here today. Using these sources, we want to look at some online business ideas that maybe sounded great or even did work for a while.
Yeah, maybe don't anymore.
Exactly. They might be outdated or just, well, too risky now. We want to help you spot these traps so you can focus on things more likely to actually make money.
Perfect. Okay, first up, the source flags something that looks super simple, maybe even lucrative on the surface.
Yeah.
Rain videos. Ambient noise stuff on YouTube.
Right, yeah. Rain, blizzards, forest sounds, that kind of thing.
The appeal seems pretty clear. People like background noise for focus, for sleep.
Totally. And the method a lot of tutorials teach is simple. Grab free stock video from places like Pixabay, get some royalty-free sounds, loop them together in an editor. Seems easy. Minimal effort, potentially big rewards.
And the numbers the source mentions are, well, they're kind of mind-blowing. It talks about using an average RPM revenue per 1,000 views of $4.
Yep.
And it estimates one rain video, just one, with over 200 million views, could have made over $800,000.
Wow. $800,000.
And another one mentioned 26 million views. Those numbers are huge. So why on earth would you avoid something with that kind of potential? That's the big question.
That is the question. And the answer, well, it gets interesting. It boils down to YouTube changing its rules. Specifically, their reuse content policy and their repetitious content policy.
Okay, yeah, YouTube's rules. They can be tricky. Break those down for us.
Sure. So reuse content basically means you can't just take stuff from somewhere else, even if it's free stock footage like Pixabay, and upload it without adding something significant yourself.
Like what? Commentary, editing?
Exactly. Commentary, educational value, some kind of transformation. Just looping stock footage often doesn't cut it. And then there's repetitious content that's aimed at channels where all the videos basically look and sound the same, like they're made from a template.
Ah, okay. And how does that hit those simple rain videos?
Well, that basic method is entirely reused stock footage.
Right.
No real added value. And ambient videos, just by what they are, tend to be repetitive.
Yeah.
Same kind of look, same kind of sound.
So you put in the work, you get the views.
But when you hit the monetization threshold, the point where you can apply to earn ad revenue, YouTube often says no. They flag the channel for reused or repetitious content.
So it's not that people stopped watching. It's YouTube saying, nope, we're not paying for this kind of content made this way.
Precisely. The platform holds the keys to monetization. But, and this is important, the source points out a key difference. It doesn't mean all ambient channels fail.
Oh.
Channels that actually film their own footage, like the example given, Stardust Vibes, who literally goes out and films for hours in the rain.
They create original content.
Right. They can get monetized because they're not just reusing stock. They've added unique value. They own the asset.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So the takeaway is relying purely on easily copied stock stuff is super risky on a platform like YouTube where the rules can just change. Originality is key there.
Absolutely. You're vulnerable if your whole model is based on freely available stuff.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads into the next example, shifting over to Amazon KDP, creating blank books.
Blank books. You mean like journals, diaries, that sort of thing?
Yep, exactly. You design the cover, maybe some simple line pages or basic prompts inside, but the user, the customer, provides most of the content by writing in it.
And the appeal there seems pretty straightforward. Low effort.
Definitely low effort compared to writing a novel. Plus, some of these, according to tools the source mentions like KDP Spy, apparently make serious money. Tens of thousands a month for some journals. That's a huge pull. And Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, makes uploading and selling free and easy.
And KDP had this killer feature, right? For print books.
It did. Besides digital ebooks, KDP does print on demand for paperbacks. And the big thing was, they used to give you a free ISBN for those print books.
Right, the International Standard Book Number. Why was free such a big deal? Aren't they just numbers?
Well, they're necessary for tracking books commercially, and they're usually not free. In the U.S., buying one from Bulker, the official agency, costs $125 for just one. Or you can buy a block of 10 for around $295.
Okay, $125 just to list one journal. Yeah, getting that for free from Amazon was a massive saving.
An incredible bargain, yeah. It lowered the barrier to entry significantly.
So what's the catch now? What changed? Why is this a problem for people starting out?
Amazon updated their policy. Plain and simple. They specifically stopped offering the free ISBN for what they call low-content books.
Which includes those journals and diaries.
Exactly. So if you want to sell your blank journal as a physical paperback through KDP, which, let's be honest, is how people want journals. They want to write in them.
You need an ISBN.
You do. And now you have to buy it yourself.
So fork out the $125.
Yep. Or $295 for 10. And this is where the source asks a really critical question for you, the listener. Is it really worth risking $125 up front to compete in a market that already has like 70,000 other journals on Amazon?
Yeah, that upfront cost really changes the risk, doesn't it? You could spend that money and just get lost in the noise, make nothing back.
It makes it much tougher for newcomers. Unless your journal idea is incredibly unique and well marketed, the odds of losing that investment are maybe higher than turning a profit.
Are there any KDP alternatives that still work? According to the source, does anything still get the free ISBN?
Yeah, it mentions that medium content books, think coloring books, puzzle books, activity books, they are still eligible for the free KDP ISBN.
Okay, so that's an option. But I feel a but coming.
You guessed it. The caveat is that those niches, especially coloring books, have also exploded. They're super competitive now, too. The source mentions over 60,000 adult coloring books on Amazon and over 60,000 kids ones as well.
Wow. So even if you dodge the ISBN cost, you're still facing massive competition.
Right. So the advice from the source, if you're considering KDP at all, niche down, hard.
Find a smaller pond.
Exactly. Do deep research, find those less saturated corners. The source uses the example of comparing like 50,000 plus dog coloring books to maybe only 30 paintball coloring books. That's the kind of difference you need to look for to have a fighting chance.
Okay, so niche research is key for KDP. Got it. Let's move to the next one. Redbubble, print on demand.
Yeah, Redbubble. Where you upload a design, they put it on t-shirts, stickers, whatever, handle all the printing, shipping.
And you get commission, like 10, 20%.
That's the model. And the source creator mentions having personal success here, but also says things have changed. And for most people, not for the better.
What was the original appeal?
Huge platform. Wow. $100 million plus in annual sales mentioned. Free to start an account. And you don't even need to be a great artist. Design tools like Canva make it accessible.
And it really took off during the pandemic.
It did, yeah. Sales boomed, partly because of demand for things like custom face masks. Lots of creators jumped in and did well then.
So why is it tougher now? What changed?
Well, a couple main things, according to the source. First, sales actually dropped year on year after that pandemic peak. Redbubble's own investor reports show that. The overall pie maybe got a bit smaller.
Okay.
And second, and this directly hits new sellers, Redbubble brought in an extra account fee, specifically for new sellers.
A fee? Like you pay to join?
No, not up front. It gets deducted automatically from any profits you make. So say you earn $10 commission on a sale. Redbubble takes a slice of that $10 as this fee before it gets to you.
Ah, so new sellers just earn less per sale now?
Effectively, yes. Less money for the same sale compared to before the fee. The source creator does acknowledge the company was probably struggling. Hemorrhaging money was the phrase used, so maybe the fee was necessary for them.
But from a seller's point of view, it just means less income potential.
Right. Cuts into your margins, especially when you're starting out.
So if someone's looking at Redbubble today, what's the advice?
Two key things from the source. One, keep your expectations realistic. Especially with the fee, this is likely just side income. Probably not going to replace your day job. Be okay with that if you jump in.
And the second thing?
Don't put all your eggs in the Redbubble basket. Upload your designs everywhere. Use other free print-on-demand sites too. Cafe Press, TeePublic, Zazzle were mentioned as examples. Spread your bets.
Diversify. Makes sense. And what about people who are serious, who want that potential life-changing money from print-on-demand?
The source suggests the path there involves taking more control, actually opening your own shop.
Like on Etsy or Shopify.
Yeah, Etsy, eBay, Shopify, places where you build more of your own brand and customer base. The creator mentions their own journey doing this, going from $0 to $4,000 a week, and points to resources they have on that strategy. It's a bigger commitment, but essentially much higher rewards than just relying on marketplace commissions.
Right, shifting from just uploading designs to building an actual online store. Okay, one last example flagged by the source. AI-generated kids' story videos on YouTube.
Ah, yes. The idea of using all these cool new AI tools,
Like ChatGPT for the story.
Midjourney or DALL-E for the pictures,
AI voice generators for the narration.
to crank out simple animated story videos for kids.
And the appeal seems huge again, right? AI makes creation seem easy, and kids' content on YouTube can get insane view counts. The source notes it's often easier to get millions of views on kids' stuff because they rewatch videos constantly.
Totally. Huge potential audience, seemingly easy production method, gets story from AI, pics from AI, maybe basic animation in Canva, AI voice.upload. Seems simple. So what's the roadblock?
This is another massive platform policy impact. The source says FTC action has basically completely destroyed monetization for children's videos on YouTube.
The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. How did they get involved? They sued YouTube because of COPPA violations. That's the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. It limits collecting personal data from kids under 13.
Okay. And how does data collection link to making money on YouTube?
Well, YouTube makes most of its ad money by showing personalized, targeted ads based on user data. Advertisers pay way more for those targeted placements. But because YouTube had to stop collecting that personalized data for videos marked made for kids.
The value of the ads shown on those videos just tanked.
Exactly. The price advertisers are willing to pay plummeted, which means the revenue creators earn per view, the RPM, also plummeted.
How low are we talking?
The source says creators report RPMs anywhere from like 8 cents up to maybe 90 cents for kids' content, often averaging around 30 to 50 cents.
Compared to the $4 average RPM for adult content we talked about earlier?
Yeah, massive difference. So the source does the math. A kid's video gets 100,000 views. At a 40-cent RPM, that's
$40
for 100,000 views. Wow. And even with AI, creating those videos isn't zero effort. The source estimates a simple 6-minute story needs maybe 36 different images.
Right, generating dozens of good, consistent images, putting them together, maybe basic animation. It takes time. Earning just $40 for that. You can see why the source flags it as likely outdated for making real money. It also mentions that the kids' story channels that do make it big often have much better actual animation characters moving, talking not just static AI images.
So is there any way AI story videos work, according to the source?
2 suggestions. Either invest in much more complex animation on top of the AI, or pivot. Target an adult audience instead.
Use the same AI tools but for grown-ups.
Exactly. The source gives an example. An AI-generated story video about Buddhism, clearly for adults. Over 3.1 million views. Using that $4 adult RPM estimate, that's potentially around $12,400. Okay, $12,400 versus $40 for maybe similar creation effort. That really drives home the impact of those COPPA changes. The key takeaway seems to be AI tools are cool, but using them for kids' content monetization on YouTube is really tough now. Go for adults or add way more non-AI value.
Definitely.
All right, so stepping back from all these examples, what's the big picture lesson here from this deep dive?
I think the main thing is just how fast things change online. Ideas that looked golden maybe just a couple of years ago can suddenly become, well, not viable, usually because of platform policy shifts, like YouTube's content rules or the COPPA thing.
Or market changes, like the KDP costs, or Redbubble's fees and sales dip.
Exactly. It's the platforms changing rules or the market getting saturated or costs going up.
And understanding the why behind it is so important, right? Not just don't do rain videos, but why the stock footage approach is risky now. Understanding the policies, the market forces.
Absolutely. Knowing why these specific things are flagged as problematic helps you avoid wasting your time, your energy, maybe even your money on strategies that are kind of set up to struggle right now. That lets you focus your efforts better.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. Given how much these platforms and markets can shift and flip promising ideas on their head, what's the most crucial thing for building something sustainable online today? Is it being incredibly adaptable, always ready to pivot and chase the latest change?
Or is it maybe more about focusing on creating something truly unique, something with inherent value that isn't quite so dependent on the whims of one specific platform or algorithm? Something to chew on. Okay, let's unpack this. There's a really compelling idea floating around right now. It's this surprising potential for young people, teenagers even, to build like significant wealth in today's economy.
Right. It kind of flies in the face of the old idea of just getting a weekend job, doesn't it?
Totally. The suggestion is those kinds of roles are maybe being overtaken by all these online opportunities that are booming.
And the source we're looking at, this YouTube transcript, it argues that teenagers aren't just, involved in this shift. They actually have a unique edge.
An edge. How so?
Well, the online world, it's not something they had to learn like older generations. It's like their native space. So that intuition is a real advantage.
Okay. That makes sense. So our mission then in this deep dive is to really get into the source material. We want to understand why this is happening and maybe more importantly, how young people are actually doing it.
Yeah, how they're making it work. And the video, it promises to lay out these 7.5 best paid online jobs for teenagers.
7.5. Okay, intriguing.
And it gives real-world examples for each one, so it's not just theory.
Right. It shows it's already happening for some.
Exactly.
So if you're listening, you're probably thinking, what are these jobs exactly, and how are teens already succeeding? Let's jump in.
Okay, first up, the source talks about being an advertising deal broker.
Right, an ad deal broker. And the potential earnings mentioned are honestly kind of wild. Anywhere from like $1 up to $120,000 a year.
Wow, that's a huge range.
It tells you, it really depends on the deals, right? But the potential ceiling is clearly very high.
So what does this role actually involve? It's basically being a connector, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You're the middleman, finding paid ads or sponsorships, linking brands with creators or, projects that need that funding.
Okay. And there's a specific example.
Yeah, a really good one. The source talks about their son doing this challenge, trying to cover the cost of a Tesla with side hustles. Part of that was getting the car wrapped with sponsor logos. And out of nowhere, they get this cold email from a teenager. Christian.
Okay.
And Christian's pitch was simple. He'd find them the sponsorship deal for a 30% cut.
30%? That's quite a commission. Did he deliver?
He did. He brought him a $30,000 offer. Now, the source ended up going with a different deal they found themselves, but if they had taken Christian's deal...
His cut would have been $9,000.
$9,000 from one deal, facilitated by a teenager. That's pretty incredible.
It really is. And he'd done this before.
Yeah. The source says he had success with other deals too. And the key thing Christian mentioned, the big insight, was about relationships.
Oh, okay.
He called it making friends in the right places.
Yeah.
Like a network, One connection leads to the next.
It shows that even online, it's not just about the tech. It's still very much about people, about networking.
Absolutely. And once you land one big deal with a known company.
That reference becomes gold, right? Makes getting the next client way easier.
It's like building social proofs or trust capital. And practically, the source says it involves using software to find influencer emails, reaching out, understanding what they need.
And then pitching brands for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a modern digital version of those classic Dale Carnegie principles, How to win friends.
Online influence.
And Christian's core lesson was, always do your best work. Because one good job, one good relationship can open so many doors you never know.
That's solid advice for anything, really. Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is Discord Community Manager for Web3.
Community managers. Yeah, these roles are popping up everywhere. The earnings here, starting above $70,000 a year, potentially.
And maybe much higher, right?
Right.
The source mentions $2,000 plus per week if you're really good.
Per week. And potentially more if you can handle multiple projects at once.
That kind of money for managing an online community, it just shows how vital that role is becoming.
It really does. The source explains that, particularly for marketing too, like Gen Z, community isn't just a nice to have, it's everything.
Brands like Gymshark were mentioned, investing heavily in this.
Right, so the Discord manager, they're the glue holding these communities together. The source even knows someone, Harry, who hires these managers.
And thinks $2 CAL a week is reasonable for top talent.
Yeah, because the job involves so much. You're on the front lines, telling the brand story, handling customer service, supporting members.
You need to be aware of what's happening globally, be active, available, really listen.
And kind of be the voice of the CEO, but, without always speaking officially for the company. It's a balancing act.
It sounds like you need to be always on, and the source flags multitasking is a really key skill here.
Definitely. It's a blend of people skills and being digitally savvy, and the market's clearly valuing that combination highly.
Okay, on to number 3. This one is writing scripts for content creators.
Writing. The source suggests earnings here can easily go over $100,000.
With top copywriters potentially making like over $500 an hour, or even $50,000 for one web page.
Yeah, that 50 grand for a web page sounds pretty wild.
It does. But the source explains it's not really about the words themselves. It's about the value those words create.
Exactly, leverage. If you write a page that costs $50, but it helps a business double its monthly profit from, say, $200K to $400K.
Then it's a no-brainer investment for them.
Right. You're making rich clients richer, and you get a slice of that value you help generate.
They call them modern salesmen in print, or the magician behind the content. And it's not just websites now, is it?
No. It's talk scripts, Twitter threads, email campaigns, all sorts of digital content.
And the example given is someone named Adam.
Yeah, Adam. He started writing travel blog posts just for passive income, and that path led him to copywriting for some really big influencers.
And his strategy sounds familiar. It echoes Christian, the ad broker.
How so?
Building relationships, one client led to the next. He also focused on being, like, exclusive, offering something unique that couldn't easily be copied.
Right. The source makes a good point. There will always be someone cheaper.
Always.
So you don't compete on price. You find clients who value premium quality and can pay for it because you deliver results. World-class service.
Positioning yourself as that high-value partner. Makes sense. Okay, what's job number 4?
SaaS software coder. SaaS meaning software as a service.
Right, and the estimate here is $60,000 to $80,000 a year for teenagers doing this.
The source brings up Sam King, who apparently built a multi-million-dollar business this way instead of taking a traditional route.
And SaaS, just to clarify, is like software you access online, right? Like Notion, MailChimp, Photoshop, tools like that.
Exactly. And the beauty is once you've built the main software, the cost to add more users is pretty low. So it's almost all profit, and it scales incredibly well.
Yeah, it avoids that race to the bottom you get with physical products, the tight margins, inventory issues. None of that.
No inventory needed. It can scale almost infinitely.
So how did Sam King do it? Did he code it himself?
His approach was interesting. He researched problems that businesses commonly face. Then he hired a programmer to actually build the software solution.
Ah, okay. So he had the idea, found the problem. The example was a tool for managing social media called Flick.
Right. So the big lesson from Sam, according to the source, is finding a problem that affects a lot of people.
And then creating a solution that's better than what's already out there.
That's where the coder, or the person with the idea who hires the coder, comes in, creating that digital asset that solves a real need at scale.
That's powerful. Okay, number 5, content redistribution editor.
This one's got a pretty high earning potential listed, $120,000 to $150,000 a year.
Yeah, and I like the analogy the source uses. It's like taking leftovers and making soup.
Huh. Or recycling in the digital age, as they put it.
Basically, you take long-form content like long podcasts, webinars, YouTube videos.
And you chop it up, remix it, edit it down into short clips for TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Helping creators get more mileage out of stuff they've already made.
And the example is Josh. He apparently got the idea at VidSummit, this creator conference.
Realizing creators make so much content.
Right. And he saw the gap. He didn't need to make new stuff. He could just repurpose their existing stuff for different platforms, helping them reach more people.
It makes perfect sense. Big creators don't have time to do all that editing themselves. It's a huge pain point.
Definitely. And Josh apparently scaled it up later, hired a team. It's smart, find value in optimizing what's already there.
Totally. What's next on the list then?
Number 6, website developer.
Okay, web dev. Potential earnings here are pegged between $80,000 and $150,000 annually for teens.
Yeah, building websites. Often it's the main front door for a business online, right?
Yeah.
So it's fundamental.
And you can specialize. The source mentions their friend Chris, who lives in Italy.
Living the dream.
Right. He niched down into building marketing funnels, specifically for the e-learning market.
Okay, so a specific niche. And did he share any key strategies?
Yes, a really important one. He structures his deals to keep clients on a monthly retainer.
Ah, recurring revenue.
Exactly. For ongoing tweaks, maintenance, updates, it turns the service into more of a subscription business.
Like Netflix, but for your website, that creates predictable income, and it's relatively passive once it's set up.
Yeah, and Chris's whole philosophy, according to the source, is interesting. It's not just about maximizing the income figure.
Oh.
He thinks the best job is one that requires little ongoing maintenance, provides passive income, and buys you freedom.
Freedom, okay.
He apparently lives pretty simply in places like Thailand, prioritizing that freedom over just chasing the highest possible salary, which he sees as kind of a trap.
That's a really valuable perspective. It's not just the money, it's what the money and the work structure allow you to do. Lifestyle design.
Exactly. Freedom as the goal.
Okay.
Almost there. Job number 7, Twitter manager.
Twitter manager. Earnings estimated around $60,000 to $80,000 per year.
Makes sense. Platforms like Twitter, or X now, I guess, are huge for public conversation and how creators connect. So managing an account well is valuable.
Yeah, building that presence. The example is Shah, who apparently dropped out of college, spent a lot of time on the platform.
Trolling, the source says.
Huh, maybe. But he turned that time into expertise, became a Twitter guru.
So what's his secret?
Intense study, apparently. Not just looking at what's viral now, but digging back. Analyzing the posts that made successful creators originally blow up.
Understanding the foundations of their success.
Right, and learning how to grab attention quickly with just a few words, using things like Twitter threads and hosting spaces effectively.
Okay, so platform-specific tactics. And how does he structure his business?
Similar to Chris, the web developer takes on multiple clients at the same time, keeps them on retainer.
That recurring revenue model again. Seems to be a recurring theme itself.
It's definitely a smart way to build stability.
Okay, and finally, we have the point 5. Job 7.5, executive assistant.
Right, the bonus job. Called a bonus because it might involve some travel, so not purely online. Earnings potential, $90,000 to $110,000 a year.
An EA. In this context, it sounds like doing basically everything for a busy creator or influencer.
Yeah, scheduling, handling comms, making small decisions. The key is making yourself indispensable.
Totally essential. The source mentions Gabe, who works for someone named Neil, and apparently does so much for them.
And the perks could be cool, right? Traveling with the influencer, seeing places.
Definitely a potential upside.
Right.
And it loops back to what we heard about Christian, the broker.
Understanding connections.
Yeah, and the power of making yourself absolutely vital to the person you support, being that right-hand person.
That's a powerful role, whether it's online or offline.
So, stepping back a bit, looking at all these examples from the source material, this deep dive really underscores this idea, doesn't it?
That the digital world is genuinely opening up these incredible paths for young people, ways to create real value, earn serious income, often without the traditional gatekeepers like degrees or needing to be in a specific physical location.
Yeah, and the common threads are really striking when you look across all these jobs.
Like what?
Well, the power of relationships and networks, definitely. Doing really good work that gets results. Finding ways to genuinely create value for someone else.
And that recurring revenue idea popped up quite a few times too, building stability.
Absolutely. And the source finishes by looking ahead a bit, suggesting that AI, artificial intelligence,
it's going to be the next big thing, another major opportunity for teens.
Yeah, a big moneymaker is how they put it, which just shows how fast this whole landscape keeps changing.
It really suggests that staying curious, being adaptable, that's crucial for navigating all this.
Couldn't agree more. So considering all these different ways young people are finding success brokering deals, building communities, writing copy, coding software, editing content, building sites, managing social media, kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of unique value could you, listening right now, potentially offer or create in this digital space? Okay, let's jump in. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take source material, could be anything really, and pull out the key insights, the actionable stuff for you.
And today, we're diving deep into just one source. A transcript from a YouTube video. It's called How to Retire Before 99% of People, Starting with $0. Pretty bold title.
It is. So our mission here is to unpack that specific source. We want to understand the core ideas it presents for retiring early, breaking down anything that seems a bit confusing.
Right, make it clear and maybe even actionable.
Exactly. And the video claims it's got a simple 3-step plan. First, you calculate the real numbers you need. Second, manage the variables, the things that affect your progress. And third, execute that plan well.
Sounds almost too simple, maybe. But the video points out that step 1, just figuring out how much you need, that's where most people stumble. They just feel lost.
Yeah, I can see that. It feels like a huge, vague number. Lots of people are probably just, hoping for the best, or maybe expecting to work way longer than they'd like, especially with all the talk about younger generations needing to work longer.
But this source says, no, you don't have to guess. There's a tool.
A tool, okay.
They call it the rule of 300.
The rule of 300. All right, how does this work? Sounds specific.
It's actually quite straightforward. You add up all your monthly expenses, like everything, what you spend in a typical month.
Okay, got my total monthly spending.
Then you multiply that number by 300.
Right. So let's say I figure out I spend $1,000 a month on average.
Then according to this rule, your target number, the amount you need saved to retire, is $300,000.
And if it was $1,500 a month?
That'd be $450,000.
Okay, and $3,000 a month spending.
Puts your target at $900,000. It scales directly. It gives you a concrete number tied to your actual lifestyle, not some generic figure.
Actually makes it feel less daunting. It's personalized. But why 300? Does that just plucked out of the air?
No, it's not random. It's based on something called the 4% safe withdrawal rate. It's a common idea in retirement planning.
Okay, the 4% rule, I think I've heard of that.
Yeah. The thinking is, if you have your target sum saved and invested, you should be able to take out 4% of it each year to live on. And if your investments are growing, ideally by more than 4% a year on average,
the pot shouldn't run out. It sort of refills itself.
Exactly. The video uses a fun analogy, Hermione's magic bag from Harry Potter. You keep taking stuff out, but there's always more in there.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
Makes it easy to picture. But the video must put some warnings on this, surely. It can't be foolproof.
Oh, absolutely. They are very clear. This is a rule of thumb, definitely not a scientific law like gravity.
Yeah.
Predicting the future perfectly. Impossible. Stuff like stock market swings, inflation, that will change the picture over decades.
Right.
And they explicitly warn anyone who claims they can predict it perfectly is probably, well, trying to sell you something.
That's a healthy dose of realism. So given all that uncertainty, how useful is this rule then?
They compare it to setting a destination on your GPS before a long road trip. Traffic, weather, detours, all that stuff will affect your actual arrival time and maybe even the route.
Sure.
But without putting in that destination first, you wouldn't even know which way to drive out of your own street. The rule of 300 gives you that initial target, that direction.
Okay, the starting point. Makes sense. And digging into that target number, there was something surprising mentioned. Like, even if the rule says you need, say, $900,000, you might not have to physically save every single dollar of that yourself.
That's right. That's where the magic, or rather the mathematics, of compound interest comes in. The video hints that needing $900K might only require you to actively save maybe $110,000, something like that. The rest could come from investment growth over time.
Wow. Okay, that's a big difference. We'll get more into that later, you said.
Yeah, when we hit the investing variable.
Perfect. So, step 1, calculate the number using the rule of 300. Step 2 is about managing the journey. The video uses a car analogy.
Like you're driving a car towards that destination. You need to use the steering wheel, the brakes, the accelerator effectively.
And these controls are the variables.
Exactly. They identify 5 key variables you need to manage: income, expenses, debt, investing, and tax.
All right, let's take them one by one. Income. They call it the accelerator. Seems obvious. Earn more money.
Pretty much. Increase your income as soon as you can. They share a personal story from the video creator's teenage years working in a radio control model shop, making very little money.
Yeah.
But instead of just asking for a raise, they made a plan. They started tracking their sales like in a little notebook.
Really meticulous.
Yeah. And they noticed something interesting. They were selling almost all the radio-controlled helicopters because they were the one who knew how to fly them well, the expert in the shop.
Ah, so they found their unique value, their leverage.
Exactly that, leverage. So they could go to the boss and say, look, this specific part of the business, the helicopter sales, that's basically down to me. Here's the proof. And they got the raise.
That's a great little story. So the takeaway for us is find ways to be more valuable. Learn high-income skills. Maybe start a side project.
That's the idea. Get good at something valuable. They mention sales, marketing, or build something on the side. But, and this is crucial.
There's always a but.
Yeah. They make the point that while earning more is great, what really dictates how fast you get to retirement isn't just how much you earn.
It's how much you save.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which leads directly into the next variable, expenses.
Expenses. This one's called the parachute. I get that like drag on a speeding car. High income doesn't help if money's pouring out just as fast.
Vivid, isn't it? And their take isn't about becoming a total miser, cutting out everything you enjoy. If your daily Starbucks coffee genuinely makes you happy, maybe that's okay.
So it's not about pure deprivation.
No, it's about being ruthless, about cutting the things you couldn't care less for, the stuff you spend money on almost unconsciously that doesn't actually add value to your life.
And this is where applying that rule of 300, again, has a real impact, right?
Yeah.
Even on small things.
A huge impact. They use Netflix as an example. Say it costs $15 a month. To cover that $15 expense indefinitely in retirement, using the rule of 300, you need $4,500 saved and invested. 15 by $300.
Hold on. So that $15 isn't just $15. It represents $4,500 you need in your retirement fund just to pay for Netflix forever, assuming that the price never goes up, which it will.
Exactly. It totally reframes how you look at those small recurring costs. They add up to a massive amount needed in savings.
Oh, that's sobering. And they point to even bigger expenses.
Oh, yeah. The biggest silent wealth killers, they call them.
Which are?
The big three, really. Rent or mortgage payments and car payments. Huge chunks of monthly income for most people.
So what's the strategy there, besides just, living in a tent?
No, they talk about hacking these expenses.
Hacking, like house hacking.
Yeah, exactly. Like buying a duplex, living in one half, and renting out the other half so the tenant basically covers your mortgage. Or even just renting out spare rooms in your own house.
Right. Getting your housing costs down, maybe even to zero.
Or rent hacking, similar idea, but if you're renting. You rent a slightly bigger place than you need and sublet the extra rooms, again, aiming to cover your own rent. Just got to make sure your landlord's okay with it, obviously.
Sure, check the lease.
Yeah.
And car hacking. How does that work?
The idea they suggest is buying a used car that's already taken its biggest depreciation hit, maybe a few years old.
Yeah.
Drive it for a while, maintain it well, and then sell it for hopefully close to what you paid, minimizing that loss.
Clever. Reducing the big outflows. Okay, next variable, debt. The video apparently says a lot of people aren't going to like this one.
Yeah, they preface it like that. It's a touchy subject. Their approach is about mastering debt, not just avoiding it entirely or being reckless with it, finding a balance.
And the analogy here is?
Fuel for your car. It can be really useful, get you where you want to go faster, but handle it carelessly, and it's incredibly dangerous.
Makes sense. So too much bad debt slows you down, but good debt can speed things up.
That's the distinction they make. Bad debt is borrowing for things that don't make you money close on a credit card, fancy holidays you can't afford, maybe that expensive car just for show. It just drains your resources.
Okay. And good debt.
Good debt is borrowing to buy assets that are expected to increase in value or generate income. The classic example is a mortgage on a rental property. Used strategically, it can build wealth faster.
And to get access to that good debt, that potentially helpful leverage.
You generally need a good credit score. That's key.
So how do they suggest building one?
Their advice is pretty standard, actually. Get a credit card, use it for small, regular expenses you'd be paying anyway, like groceries or gas. And then, this is the crucial part, pay the balance off in full every single month. Don't carry a balance, don't pay interest.
So you're using it as a tool to build history, not as actual borrowing.
Exactly. It shows lenders you're responsible, but they're quite firm. The only reason to actively build good credit, in their view, is so you can eventually use it to acquire those income-producing assets.
Got it. Purposeful debt management. Okay, variable number 4, investing, called the Mario Kart Boost Pad. Love it.
Yeah, it's about getting that extra speed. Because just saving cash isn't usually enough. Investing is what allows your money to potentially grow faster than inflation, faster than just saving alone.
And this ties back to the rule of 300 and the 4% withdrawal rate, right?
Absolutely. The whole premise relies on your invested money growing by more than the 4% you plan to take out each year. That's how the pot sustains itself or even keeps growing.
Does the video get specific about how they invest? They mention it's not advice, just their own path.
They do. They mention consistently investing in an S&P 500 index fund. That basically tracks the 500 biggest U.S. companies. Historically, it's averaged somewhere around 8% per year return. Obviously, past performance is no guarantee for the future, but that's the example used.
8% average compared to the 4% withdrawal. That's the math that makes it work, potentially.
That's the idea. And this is where compound interest really shows its power. They give a striking example.
Lay it on us.
Okay, imagine you invest just $200 every month, consistently,
Yeah.
for 45 years.
$200 a month for 45 years. Okay, you're doing the math. That's $108,000 you've put in out of your own pocket.
Right, $108,000 saved. But if that money grew at an average of 8% per year,
Yeah.
potentially that $108,000 could become over $1,054,907.
Wow. Okay. From 108K contributed to over $1 million. That starkly shows how growth does the heavy lifting over time. That makes those big rule of 300 numbers feel well, reachable eventually.
It does, doesn't it? It's not all on you to save every penny.
Yeah.
And the video points out that investing is so much more accessible now.
Yeah, you don't need a fancy broker. You can do it on your phone.
Exactly. They actually mention a specific app in the video, Lightyear. They note Lightyear was a sponsor of their video.
Okay, so what did the source say about it?
According to the video transcript, Lightyear is described as offering low-code access to global stock markets, UK, US, European stocks. It's positioned as user-friendly for both beginners and experienced investors, available on mobile and web. It apparently offers over 3,000 stocks and ETFs, including those S&P 500 tracker funds they mentioned. And interestingly, the video says it lets users earn interest on uninvested cash in euros, US dollars, or British pounds.
Right, so that's the information presented in the source about that platform. And crucially, as the source itself reminds people,
investing always carries risk. Always. The value of your investments can go down just as easily as up. You could get back less than you put in. That's non-negotiable.
Absolutely essential reminder. Okay, final variable. Number 5, tax, called the leaky fuel tank.
You can see why, right? As your income grows or your investments grow, the government wants a bigger piece. It's like your hard-earned fuel is leaking out.
So what's the fix, according to the source?
Use the system to your advantage. Use the tax loopholes, the perfectly legal structures designed to reduce your tax burden.
What kind of structures are we talking about?
Tax-advantaged accounts. Things like Roth IRAs and 401ks if you're in the U.S., or ISAs, individual savings accounts in the U.K.
Ah, okay. And how do they help plug the leak?
Well, they offer tax benefits. Depending on the account type, you might get tax relief on the money you put in, or, crucially, the growth and earnings inside the account aren't taxed year after year. Sometimes withdrawals in retirement are tax-free too. It shields your money from that tax drag.
So you keep more of your own money working for you.
That's the goal, and the video strongly suggests maxing out the annual contribution limits on these accounts as soon as you possibly can each year.
Got it. Okay, so that covers the 5 variables: income, expenses, debt, investing, tax. We have our destination number, rule of 300, we understand the controls. Step 3 is execution, actually driving the car.
Right. This is about becoming a better driver of your financial plan, adapting, staying focused. The video offers 3 techniques here.
Technique 1, develop an ROI obsession. ROI, return on investment. That sounds pretty intense for everyday life.
It does. The idea is to constantly think about whether your spending, especially on bigger ticket items, is actually providing a return. Is it helping you make more money, or is it just gone?
Can you give an example? They mentioned one, right?
Yeah, the MacBook Pro example. If you buy one and use it to, say, build a website, run a business, edit videos for clients, it's a tool with a potential return on investment.
Okay.
But if you buy that same expensive laptop and mostly just play games or browse social media, well, it's not generating anything back. You just spent the money and you've got to earn it back some other way. The goal, as they put it, is to use things to make you more money so you never have to start from zero more than once.
Shifting that mindset from spending to investing, even for things we buy. Interesting. Technique 2.
Measure your progress. This one's more straightforward. Make it a habit to set clear, specific financial goals each month, like this month I will save X amount, or I will invest Y amount.
Having targets. And didn't they suggest a way to make yourself more likely to hit them?
They did. Share those targets with someone, a friend, a partner, tell them what you're aiming for. Apparently, they cite a statistic now, who knows exactly where it's from, but they claim doing this increases your chances of hitting the goal by something like 65%.
65%. Just by telling someone. That seems huge, if true. But it's a simple action, low cost. Worth a try.
Definitely an easy takeaway. Okay, technique 3. This one sounds weird. Stay cash poor.
Stay poor. That seems completely backward to everything we've discussed.
I know, right? And the video fully acknowledges this is controversial, that a lot of people might not agree.
So what's the logic?
Their reasoning is psychological. If you have too much readily available cash sitting in your bank account, you might get too comfortable, complacent, lose the edge.
So it's about maintaining pressure, motivation.
Exactly. By intentionally not keeping lots of spare cash lying around and instead pushing that money quickly into investments or back into a business, the creator felt constantly motivated to keep earning, stay adaptable, and not get stuck in a comfort zone.
So it forces you to keep the accelerator down, in a way.
Kind of. It's related to the idea of paying yourself first. You allocate money to your investments first, then you force yourself to live off and find what's left. It definitely requires discipline.
Yeah, and maybe a certain personality type or risk tolerance. But I get the psychological angle they're putting forward. Okay, now, let's circle back to that idea from the beginning. The source suggests that once you actually reach financial independence, you might find you don't want what we think of as retirement.
Right. They challenge the whole traditional notion. They explain that historically, retirement was partly a social construct to get older workers out of the way for younger workers.
Okay, a way to manage the workforce.
But the potential downside for the individual retiring can be pretty significant.
Which is?
A loss of purpose, a loss of drive. The video creator shares their own experience apparently having enough money to retire in their late 20s.
Wow, late 20s.
Yeah. But instead of bliss, they felt adrift. They say they lost the will to live for a while because they lacked that structure, that mission, that work, even if sometimes difficult, provided.
That's powerful. So that led them to rethink what retirement should even mean.
It did. They explored a couple of alternatives. First, something called micro-retirement.
Micro-retirement.
Yeah.
Like short bursts.
Yeah. Taking intentional breaks from work, maybe a few months here, a few months there, to travel, pursue hobbies, whatever. Then you go back to work. It breaks up a long slog, injects some life balance.
But you still have to go back.
Exactly. They found that going back to something they didn't fundamentally want to do long term was still a drawback.
So what was the other option, the one they preferred?
What they call lifelong retirement. And their definition is simple: freedom. Retirement means having the freedom to only do the things you genuinely want to do.
So it's not about stopping work. It's about having total control over what work or activity you do, based purely on desire and enjoyment.
Precisely. It's about autonomy. For them, this looks like building businesses around things they actually enjoy. And crucially, hiring other people to do the parts they don't enjoy.
Delegating the drudgery. That makes sense if you have the resources, which leads to the obvious question the video anticipates.
If you're retired like this, why are you making YouTube videos?
Yeah. What's the answer given?
It fits their definition perfectly. They say they do it because they genuinely enjoy it and they find purpose in sharing knowledge and helping people. It's a want to, not a have to.
That aligns. And it connects to their final thought about money and happiness.
It does. They share that, quote, "Whoever said money doesn't make you happy hasn't given enough of it away." And then they add, for them, giving away knowledge feels even more true.
Okay, so let's recap this deep dive. We started with a concrete way to get a target number, that rule of 300.
Then we broke down the 5 key variables you need to manage, like controls on a car: income, expenses, debt, investing, and tax. Understanding how they work together.
And finally, those execution techniques. The ROI obsession, measuring progress maybe with a buddy, and that challenging idea of staying cash poor to maintain drive.
I think this dive, based just on this one source, gives you a really structured framework. It takes the potentially overwhelming idea of early retirement and offers practical steps, but also some powerful mental reframes, especially around expenses and what retirement even means.
Yeah, it definitely pushes you to think beyond just quitting a job. So the final thought for you, listening. In traditional retirement isn't necessarily the goal. If freedom, doing only what you truly want, is the real aim, what activities would you build your life around? And what level of financial resources would actually enable that specific kind of freedom for you? What's the biggest thing that stands out to you from this deep dive?
Okay, so get this. Imagine just like watching some funny viral videos online. You know, the stuff you probably scroll through anyway. And that, just watching and reacting, could somehow turn into earning over $224,000 a year. I mean, that sounds pretty wild, right?
It really does, especially when the material we looked at calls it a super lazy side hustle.
Super lazy. Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're going to dive into today. We've been digging through these sources you share, the ones that really unpack this whole thing, finding videos, already huge on TikTok or Instagram, recording yourself reacting to them, and then sort of mashing it together and re-uploading it to YouTube, especially YouTube Shorts.
Right. And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to go through all that material and figure out how this is actually being done, like in the real world, who's supposedly making it work. Because the sources, they give some really specific channel examples.
Okay.
And what are the potential earnings? We've got estimates. And then, yeah, the step-by-step using tools and material says are completely free.
Right. So let's unpack it. We're taking all this info you've gathered and trying to make sense of this pretty surprising online trend.
Yeah.
Extracting the core ideas.
Well, the fascinating part, I think, is the core idea, the basic mechanic of it all. You start by finding a video that's already massive. It went viral on TikTok, maybe Instagram.
So the hard work's kind of done. It's proven.
Exactly. The audience is there. The algorithm liked it somewhere else already.
And then here comes the part that sounds almost too simple. You just film yourself watching it, like with your phone.
Yeah, just your phone or a basic webcam. That's what the material suggests. And then using these free web tools they mention, you basically stick the two together. Your reaction usually takes up maybe like a third of the screen, and the original viral clip is right there next to it, or maybe above or below.
So you've made something sort of new, but it's built entirely on existing popular stuff.
Precisely. And the theory, or at least what's outlined in the material, is because you're latching onto something already viral. Your new combined video, once it hits YouTube, it might just catch that same wave, go viral again.
Racking up millions of views, maybe really quickly.
Which then, naturally, could mean real money through YouTube's ad revenue sharing. It's a method described, like you said, as one of the laziest side hustles the author claimed to have seen. They even said it's kind of controversial.
Controversial just because it seems so easy. Low effort, maybe?
Perhaps. But, okay, look at the results the material points to. There's this channel, Surfin' Boy, mentioned as a prime example. In just 2 years, doing exactly this, the channel apparently got over 5 million subscribers.
Wow, 5 million. From reaction clips.
Yeah, the author talks about finding his channel and just being kind of blown away by how fast it grew. Looking at the public data, this channel apparently pulled in over 74 million views in just the last 30 days before the material was written, mostly from shorts.
And the videos themselves are bad.
Exactly what we're talking about. Simple reactions. Clips already viral elsewhere. The material even uses one specific example of video from Surfin' Boy with 12 million views. And he's reacting to a TikTok of someone icing a cookie.
Icing a cookie. And that got 12 million views, his reaction to it.
Yep. And what's interesting, and the material points this out, is his commentary wasn't like super deep or anything, often just describing what's happening or, basic reactions. Oh, wow, look at that. But because the original cookie video was something millions already wanted to watch, his reaction also got 12 million views.
Okay, that really drives home the point about, riding the coattails of existing popularity. But, all right, the money. Let's talk potential earnings. How much could this actually bring in?
So the research in the material looked into this. It looked at what YouTubers were reporting, especially for shorts revenue. The general range seemed to be at least 10 to 12 cents per thousand views, often closer to 14 or 15 cents per thousand. That's the RPM, the rate per mil.
10 or 12 cents per thousand. Doesn't sound like a ton on its own, but you scale that up to 12 million views on one video.
Right. So using the really conservative low end, that 10 cents per thousand views, that single cookie reaction video could have made over $1,200 US.
$1,200 from one short reaction video.
According to those estimates, yeah. And the material mentions this was apparently during a slow month for this Surfin' Boy channel. Usually it says he gets over 100 million views a month.
Okay, wait. If he's doing 100 million views a month,
yeah,
what does that look like annually?
Well, if you take that 100 million views a month, stretch it over a year, and stick with that conservative 10-cent RPM, the material calculates he could potentially be making over $224,000 US a year.
Whoa.
That number comes straight from the view counts and the typical ad rates cited in the source material.
That's pretty nuts for something described as lazy.
Okay, but hang on. The material must mention this, right? To make money from YouTube Shorts ads, you need to qualify. There are thresholds, aren't there? Like 10 million views in 90 days?
Yeah.
And 1,000 subscribers. Yes, absolutely. And that's a really important point. 10 million views sounds huge, like a massive hurdle. But the material points out, because you're piggybacking off viral stuff, that one 12 million view cookie video we talked about, that reportedly got Surfin' Boy the 12 million views and over 1,000 subscribers in basically one day.
One day. So you could hit the monetization threshold with just one really successful video.
It seems possible, yeah. If one of these reaction videos really takes off, like that example suggests, it's challenging for sure, but doable according to the source.
Okay, but maybe Surfin' Boy is just like a one-off,
yeah,
a lucky outlier.
That's a fair question. And the author of the material apparently wondered the same thing and dug a bit deeper. What they reported finding was, and I quote loosely, tons of other YouTube channels succeeding just like this one.
Oh, really? Like who?
Well, they mentioned a few others. DragonFacts was one.
DragonFacts, what's their angle?
This is interesting. Apparently, this channel doesn't even involve talking in the videos.
Wait, silent reactions.
Seems so. The examples show the creator watching, like, cute or funny videos and just smiling, nodding, maybe a thumbs up. purely visual reactions.
And that works?
Well, the material highlights one of their videos with over 11 million views where the creator is totally silent. And this channel was pretty new when the material was written, maybe 8 months old.
Yeah.
And it already had over 200 million views and 1 million subscribers.
Wow. Okay, so silent can work too, based on these examples.
Yeah, though the material does also mention another channel, Michelle Reacts, doing a silent try not to laugh thing with big views too. But there's a little note of caution in there, some uncertainty about whether YouTube will keep monetizing totally silent reaction content long term.
Ah, okay.
So the suggestion seems to be that adding some kind of commentary might be a safer bet going forward.
Gotcha. Any other examples?
Yeah, it's not just adults either. The material brings up Munson Reacts. This is reportedly a teenager doing the same kind of thing. He does talk in his videos, though, and apparently also gets massive views, millions consistently.
A teenager. Okay, that brings up the age question. The material must cover that, right?
Yeah.
Can teenagers actually earn from this?
It does. According to the information presented, yes, they can. YouTube allows kids as young as 13 to have their own channel. Now, for the money part, turning on ads and getting paid, you need a guardian involved to set up the AdSense account. That's standard.
Okay.
But the material notes YouTube's terms allow parents or guardians to do this legally for a minor. The perspective offered is basically, most parents would probably be fine with setting that up if their kid's channel actually qualified and started earning some money.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got the concept, the kind of surprising potential money involved based on the data, and specific examples of channels doing it. Let's get practical now. How does someone actually make these videos according to the material? Using free tools, right? Yeah, step 1. Finding the videos.
Right, finding those really viral videos. You could just scroll forever, I guess. But the approach outlined suggests using AI, like ChatGPT, maybe just to brainstorm some niche ideas first.
Like asking it for ideas.
Yeah, like suggest some niches for funny or cute viral videos to react to.
Yeah.
The material used weird food combinations as an example query.
Okay, weird food. So you get an idea, then what? Head to TikTok.
Yep, specifically the TikTok mobile app. You search your niche weird food combinations, click the filter button, and here's the key bit. Filter the results by the number of likes.
Ah, so you immediately see the most popular, the most viral videos in that exact category using TikTok's own data.
Exactly, letting the platform tell you what's already working. The material shows finding a weird food video this way and points out how simple it would be to react just giving your opinion on the combos shown.
Okay, find a winner based on likes. Then you need the video file itself.
Yeah, the material mentions just using a free website tool to download the TikTok video. Simple enough, then film yourself watching it.
And this isn't faceless, right? The material stresses you have to be on camera.
Correct. It emphasizes that your face, your reactions, that's what supposedly transforms it into a new type of video, a reaction video. And that's key for potentially getting monetized.
And filming yourself doesn't need fancy gear.
Apparently not. A good camera's fine, obviously. But the material says a simple webcam can work. It even cites another YouTuber, Jackie Z, with like 80 million views using just a webcam.
Or just your phone. Probably easiest for most people.
Probably. But if you use your phone, there's a specific instruction highlighted.
What's that?
Film your reaction in landscape mode, horizontally.
Oh, interesting. Why landscape if shorts are vertical?
Because the way successful channels like Jackie Z structure these, according to the material, the original viral video, often vertical, takes up maybe the bottom 2/3 of the vertical short frame, and your reaction video fits into a smaller landscape box at the top. So you need to film your part horizontally to fit that layout.
Got it. Landscape reaction. Okay. And audio. What if you don't have a microphone?
Material says don't sweat it initially, because there's an AI tool they mention later that can clean it up. They even showed filming their own example reaction just propping their phone up with some board games. Keeping it totally free to start.
Huh. Okay, resourcefulness. So you got your reaction clip, landscape, and the downloaded viral clip. Next is editing.
Yep. And the recommendation is the free web-based editor, CapCut. There's a mobile app too, apparently.
CapCut? Heard of it. So what are you doing there?
You start a new project in the 9:16 format. That's the vertical format for shorts. Upload both clips, your landscape reaction, and the vertical viral video you downloaded.
Okay.
Drag your reaction clip onto the timeline. Position it, maybe at the top like we discussed. Then drag the viral video clip onto the timeline. Now, at first, it'll probably cover up your reaction clip because it's big and vertical.
Right. So how do you fix that?
CapCut has a cropping tool. You use that to crop the viral video down, so it takes up maybe the bottom 2/3 of that 9:16 frame. Now you can see both, your smaller landscape reaction at the top, the bigger vertical viral clip below it.
Okay, visual layout sorted. What else?
Super important point. Heavily stressed in the material, you must silence the original audio from the viral video clip.
Especially if it has music.
Exactly. Copyrighted music is a huge risk. Fail to mute it, and you'll likely get a copyright strike, no monetization. Silencing it in CapCut is usually just clicking a sound icon. Simple but crucial.
Right. Mute the original, then sync things up.
Yeah, just make sure your reaction starts and ends roughly with the viral clip. CapCut has a split tool to trim your reaction clip easily.
And you can add text and stuff.
You can. The material mentions that successful channels like Surf and Boy often credit the original creator, like their TikTok handle. And it shows how you can easily add a text box in CapCut, maybe with a background, put it somewhere on screen, and make sure it appears for the whole video link.
Okay, video edited. But what about that phone audio? You mentioned an AI tool.
Yes, this sounds pretty cool, actually. The material highlights Adobe's free AI tool. It's called Podcast Enhanced Speech.
Adobe Podcast Enhance, free.
Apparently so. To use it with your CapCut edit, you first export the video from CapCut. Then you need another free tool, the material suggested one, called Biteable, but others might work just to upload that video and rip out the audio track as a separate file, like an MP3 or WAV.
So you isolate just your voice from the reaction clip.
Exactly. You take that audio file, upload it to the Adobe Podcast Enhanced Speech website, and the AI does its thing. Machine learning cleans up background noise, echo, sharpens it all up. The claim in the material is it makes it sound almost like it was recorded in a pro studio, like a professional podcast.
Wow, they could be a game changer for low-budget setups. Did they show an example?
They did, a before and after. And yeah, the difference in clarity was described as genuinely impressive.
Okay, that sounds incredibly useful. So you get this enhanced audio file back from Adobe. Then what?
Back in the CapCut you go. Upload the new, clean audio file. Now, you mute the original audio track from your phone webcam reaction clip.
Right, get rid of the noisy original.
And drag the new enhanced audio onto the timeline, lining it up so it syncs perfectly with your reaction visuals.
Clever. Okay, so video's done, audio's enhanced. Final step.
Export the final video from CapCut. Material says choose high quality 1080p resolution, good for shorts.
And that's it. You have the video file.
That's reportedly it, ready to upload. The material suggests doing the upload via the YouTube mobile app is easiest. Hit the plus button, choose your video, write a caption, maybe hint at what the viral clip is about, and post it as a short. Done. Though the creator of the material did explicitly say they wouldn't be doing this themselves, wasn't their personal interest. But they laid out the steps based on their research for anyone who was interested.
Right. Okay, let's pull this all together then. Key takeaways from this deep dive into the source material. We've seen the core mechanic, piggybacking off existing viral stuff, which can lead to potentially incredibly rapid view growth. Hitting those monetization thresholds, 10 million views in 90 days, may be surprisingly fast.
And we saw specific examples highlighted. Surfin' Boy, Dragon Facts doing silent reactions. Michelle reacts also silent. Munson reacts as a teenager who does talk, showing it's not just one channel.
Yeah, different styles working. We looked at the potential earnings estimates from the material, that 10-15 cents per thousand views, which, when applied to the massive view count some channels are getting, leads to those eyebrow-raising annual figures like the over $224,000 calculation for Surfin' Boy.
And we walked through the practical steps using those free tools described, using AI like ChatGPT for ideas, the TikTok filter trick for finding viral hits, CapCut for the actual editing, Biteable or similar to extract audio, and then that Adobe Podcast Enhance AI to make the sound quality way better, even from just a phone. Plus, the confirmation that teenagers can apparently participate with Guardian help for the payment side based on platform rules.
It really does circle back to that initial description, doesn't it? The super lazy angle. The surprising simplicity described in the material contrasted with the potentially huge results some people seem to be getting.
So, based on everything we've gone through from the sources, you should now have a pretty clear picture of this specific online activity, how it's done according to the material, and the results people are reporting.
Okay, so here's a final thought, just something to chew on based on all this. Given how much this whole strategy seems to rely on finding existing viral hits and really leveraging the current algorithms both on TikTok and Instagram to find the content and on YouTube Shorts to push the reaction, what are the long-term stability of this? What happens if those platforms change their algorithms? or update their rules about reaction content, or just decide to surface videos differently. How fragile is this kind of income stream? Definitely something to think about. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something really interesting. It's a YouTube video from Mark Tilbury.
Oh, yeah, the businessman. He lays out his journey, right? To his first $10 million.
Exactly. And he breaks it down into these, 5 clear stages he went through.
It's pretty fascinating seeing it mapped out like that. You get the mindset, the actual steps.
Yeah, and our mission here is basically to pull out the key lessons from each stage, the surprises too, and maybe even more importantly, the big mistakes he admits to making.
Right, give you a bit of a shortcut maybe. Understand the strategies, the thinking, what not to do.
We'll look at what he was focused on, as a business owner, as an investor.
And definitely those moments that really mattered, the turning points. Some were pretty tough from what I remember.
For sure. Think of it like we're tracing his map to success, pointing out the roadblocks and the breakthroughs he found.
Okay, sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's jump in. Stage 1, the spark. He calls it the awakening.
Right, the awakening. This is basically him starting from scratch, like literally zero, up to maybe 20 grand.
$20,000, okay.
And what's interesting is he says his teacher wasn't some fancy finance course. It was, what did he call it? The roller coaster of life.
The roller coaster of life. I like that. So it wasn't all smooth sailing from the get-go.
Not at all. And there was this one specific moment, apparently, that kind of kicked it all off.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
Well, he was installing a staircase, right, for this really wealthy guy. Saw the whole setup, fancy kitchen, rugs, supercars, and the owner's just, practicing his golf swing. Middle of the day.
Wow.
So Mark asks him, what's the secret? And the guy apparently just taps him on the shoulder and says something like, Mark, if you can't make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die.
Oof. That line hits hard. That idea of income not tied directly to your hours.
Totally. That was apparently the light bulb moment. He decided, okay, I need to figure out how this works, how to get into that, top 1% mindset, passive income, basically.
But it wasn't like he was just sitting around before that, right? He had some hustle already.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He mentions having that entrepreneurial spark way back.
Like what?
Selling fish door to door as a kid. Can you imagine? Getting up at 4 a.m., freezing on a pier, then trying to sell slimy fish.
That's intense. Builds character, I guess.
Yeah.
And probably sales skills the hard way.
You bet. And he learned a key lesson even then, he says, about lifestyle inflation.
The classic. Make a bit more, spend a bit more.
Exactly. Any cash he made from those early gigs just sort of vanished. Fast food, dates, whatever.
Your income just becomes the new zero, doesn't it? Hard to save.
Right. Your spending just rises to meet it. And he admits, too, he had that dream back then, the Ferrari, thinking that was the sign you'd made it.
The big, flashy symbol of wealth. Did that change?
It did. He mentions a friend who was a valet, saw all these rich people roll up. And the friend realized, the people driving the fancy cars thought everyone was admiring them. But the valet, he didn't care about the driver or the car. The valet was just thinking, wow, if I had that car, people would think I was cool.
Huh. That's quite the perspective shift. So it wasn't about the car. It was about how he thought the car made him look.
Exactly. He figured out that things like competence, being smart, being kind, those earn way more real respect than horsepower. True wealth, often you don't even see it. It's quiet.
That's a really powerful insight to have early on. So how did that actually change what he did in this first stage?
Well, it kind of pushed him to just quietly focus on his own thing. And the basic tool he needed, a budget. Simple as that.
Just knowing where the money was supposed to go versus where it actually went.
Yep. The boring stuff that works. Finally let him see his savings actually grow, build up an emergency fund, for when things go wrong.
Because they always do, eventually.
Right. But even saving, he felt something was off. He was making, wooden trash cans at the time.
And trash cans. Okay.
Yeah. And he wasn't passionate about it at all. He realized just piling up money wasn't going to cut it if the work itself felt meaningless.
So back to that passive income idea, maybe, but framed differently.
Kinda. He had another big realization. The best thing money can buy is control over your time.
Freedom, not just cash.
That's the real goal of passive income, he figured. Not just more stuff, but buying back your hours to do things you actually care about.
That's fundamental. Changes the whole game.
Totally. He knew getting there would take a lot of time or a lot of money. So he asked himself, okay, what am I actually passionate about? And for him, it was radio control models.
Okay.
He saw problems in that industry, thought he could do it better. He'd read somewhere, turn problems into opportunities. And that belief kind of pushed him into stage 2.
Right. Stage 2, the hustle.
Yeah.
This is where it ramps up, right? From that $20K up to $100,000.
Yeah, and it starts with maybe less of a bang and more of a stab in the back. He was super excited about his business plan for the RC models.
Oh.
Shared it with a close friend.
Don't tell me.
Yep. The friend literally stole the entire idea, set up the whole business himself.
Oh, man. That is brutal. What a tough lesson right out of the gate about trust and protecting your ideas.
Painful, right. But here's the thing. Even after that, and not having enough cash saved up, he still drew up a business plan, went to the bank.
And asked for a loan?
Yep. Had to try multiple banks, apparently, but he eventually got one.
Wow. So, betrayed, short on capital, but he just pushed through. What did he do with the loan and his earnings then? Did he start investing right away?
Nope, not yet. He plowed everything, the loan, any profits, straight back into the business, opening more stores, growing it.
Doubling down.
Yeah. And get this, he eventually managed to buy back the original idea from the friend who stole it.
No way. That's wild. So he reclaimed it. What else was key in this hustle phase?
He started connecting with mentors, people who knew business. They taught him about scaling, sales, managing people.
So learning the ropes of actually running a bigger operation?
Exactly. Solving those problems wasn't just about the money. It was about him becoming the kind of person who could handle a bigger business. Investing in himself,
Makes sense. Building his own skill set.
But this growth period also led to, one of his biggest crashes. He talks about walking into a shop he'd set up for his dad.
Yeah.
And it was just completely destroyed. Roof smashed in, shelves empty, everything broken, ransacked.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
Just devastating for a business owner.
And it didn't stop there. 2 other shops got hit soon after, including the main one in London. A truck drove straight through the wall. Huge losses, tons of damage.
How did he even recover from that? What was the big mistake he realized afterwards?
It showed him a massive flaw. He'd grown so fast, was making good money, but he hadn't, buttoned everything up properly. His insurance, it hadn't been updated to cover all the new stock he had. He was massively underinsured.
Ah, so the growth outpaced the protection.
Yeah.
The diligence needed to keep the wealth.
Exactly. That's where he really learned about risk and reward, the hard way. He says making money takes risk, sure, but keeping it, that takes humility and a healthy fear that it can disappear.
Yeah.
He throws out that math, lose 95%, you need to make 1,000% just to break even. Taking huge unmanaged risks can just sink you.
That's a stark reminder.
Definitely. And that experience also pushed him to start moving more online, partly as a way to reduce those kinds of physical risks.
Okay, so that takes us into stage 3, the trap. Going from 100K up to the $1 million mark. Why does he call this one the trap?
Well, this is where he hits a really common issue, I think. You turn your the RC models into your job, your main income source.
Yeah.
And suddenly, it doesn't feel like a passion anymore. It feels kind of like a prison. You're so reliant on it to pay the bills, the fun gets squeezed out by the pressure.
The thing you loved becomes the thing you have to do. I can see that.
Right. And he realized he was the bottleneck. As the business grew, especially online, so did the problems, the complexity, customer complaints, worries. It felt like putting out one fire just started another one somewhere else.
The business was basically running him.
Pretty much. He makes the point that owning a business can be amazing, especially if you love it, but it's definitely not the easy, passive thing people sometimes think it is.
Okay, so the business is becoming this trap. But financially, something else important started happening around this time too, right? With investing.
Absolutely. This is where his investing side really kicked in seriously. He started reading crazy investing books, studying Buffett, and he found John Bogle's book on common sense investing.
The Vanguard guy.
That's the one. And Bogle's ideas really hit home. Specifically, this one stat.
What was it?
He learned that something like 80% of professional active fund managers actually fail to beat a simple S&P 500 index fund over the long term.
80%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of shocking, actually. So the pros aren't reliably beating the market average.
Not consistently, no. So for Mark, that was okay, why try to be clever and pick stocks or pay high fees for active managers if most of them underperform anyway?
Makes sense. So what did he do instead?
His strategy became super simple. Just invest regularly in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, diversify across 500 of the biggest U.S. companies.
Basically, just bet on the overall U.S. economy to grow over time.
Exactly. Steady, long-term growth was the goal.
Yeah.
He wanted to build up enough that, worst case, he could pull out maybe 4% a year to live on, and the pot would likely still keep growing or at least hold its value.
Go 4% rule, yeah. Classic withdrawal strategy.
And sticking to that simple plan, being really rigid about it, actually saved him during the dot-com crash around 2000.
How so?
Well, he learned that losses feel way worse than gains feel good, you know? Stocks crash like an elevator going down, but profits feel like taking the slow escalator up.
Yes, psychologically, losses loom larger. But he didn't sell when things got scary.
Nope. Discipline kicked in. He kept doing dollar-cost averaging. Just kept putting money in regularly, same amount, even as the market was tanking. So he was actually buying more shares when prices were low.
Buying the dip, essentially, but automatically.
Right. He compares it to being a pilot, hours of smooth flying, then moments of sheer terror during turbulence.
And you got to stay calm through the turbulence.
Exactly. He found that just sticking to that boring, simple plan during the scary times, the dot-com crash, the 2008 crisis later on, that discipline accounted for most of his long-term returns. Sticking with it was key.
All right, stage 4, the refinement. Now we're talking $1 million up to $10 million. Being a millionaire must change things, huh?
Oh, yeah. He says once you have serious money, it's like suddenly all these opportunities appear. Savings give you options, which is great, but it also means there's this whole buffet of potential investments laid out. Some good, some not so much.
More ways to potentially lose it, too.
Definitely. And he hit a specific milestone here financially, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Once his income passed $100,000 a year, he qualified as an accredited investor.
Right, which sounds fancy, and he said it was exciting because you get access to different deals, but also dangerous.
How is it dangerous?
Well, it led him straight into a classic trap. Penny stocks.
Uh-oh. Highly speculative stuff.
Totally. He apparently had a bit of early success, which probably boosted his confidence too much, but then he lost a decent chunk, like $30,000 on a couple of bad bets.
Ouch. Another lesson learned the expensive way. Did that lead to a new rule for him?
It did, a very strict one. Basically, only invest in things you really understand. Unless it's just a tiny amount, like play money, you're totally okay with losing.
And that's not just for stocks, right?
No, he applies it broadly. Stocks, crypto, NFTs, whatever. Even relationships, he jokes. Do your homework, understand what you're getting into.
That's solid advice. So after getting burned on penny stocks, where did he put his focus?
He kind of pulled back and decided to double down on what he knew best, his main business. Flew out to the U.S., worked with a friend to restructure things.
And what was the big change they made?
The key move was shifting from selling directly to individual customers, that's B2C,
right,
to mainly selling to other businesses, B2B.
Okay, why was that better?
His friend basically showed him that focusing on business clients let him scale up revenue much faster without all the headaches of dealing with thousands of individual customer issues and personalities.
Ah, fewer, bigger clients versus loads of small ones. More efficient.
Hugely. And this tied into other ideas he started using more deliberately here, like the 80-20 rule.
Pareto principle, yeah.
Focus on the 20% of activities or customers that bring in 80% of the results. And cut out the rest. The stuff that takes time but doesn't move the needle much.
Makes sense. Cutting through the noise.
Exactly. He also traveled, went to China, Japan, learned about lean manufacturing.
Toyota's famous system.
Right. The whole idea of ruthlessly cutting out anything unnecessary from your process. Waste, complexity, anything. Just streamline everything.
And he applied that lean thinking beyond just manufacturing.
Yeah, to the whole business, even his personal life. Simplifying, focusing only on what really mattered and delivered results or meaning.
So, refining the business, focusing on B2B, applying these principles that got him to the $10 million mark.
It did. He hit the number.
And how did that feel? Elation? Victory?
He says he felt empty.
Empty, really. After all that work, hitting the big goal.
Yeah. The financial target was achieved, but that sense of like ultimate satisfaction just wasn't there. And that feeling, that emptiness was kind of the doorway to the final stage.
Which is stage 5. The revelation, $10 million and beyond. Yeah. So if hitting the number wasn't the answer, what was the big revelation?
This is where he really started thinking about, okay, what are the most important investments? Not just the ones with dollar signs.
And what did he land on? What truly mattered most?
It became really clear, he says. His relationships, family, friends, that was the real wealth. He mentions that, quote, you'll be the same person in 5 years except for the people you meet and the books you read.
Right. It's the connections and the learning that shape you fundamentally, more than the bank balance.
Exactly. So his focus shifted quite dramatically. He started teaching his son, Curtis, about finance, about everything he'd learned.
Okay.
And together, they actually started the YouTube channel. The specific goal was to share that knowledge, try to educate younger people.
So passing on the lessons learned, sharing his perspective, not as some guru from on high, but as someone who actually built it, through all the mistakes and the hard work.
Yeah, guided by passion at first, then learning discipline, focus, all those lessons.
So what's his focus now in this stage?
He says it's much more about enjoying the small things, appreciating what he has, really nurturing those quality relationships. And he sees sharing his knowledge, doing the YouTube stuff, as his way of giving back, like how other successful people might do philanthropy or write books.
Sounds like he's still driven, still hustling maybe, but the why behind it is totally different now.
Absolutely. The meaning isn't just in the accumulation anymore. It's in the connection, the sharing, hopefully inspiring others with those hard-won lessons.
Wow. That's quite a journey through those 5 stages.
Yeah.
From that first wake-up call.
The awakening,
To this final revelation. We've really seen the power of just basic budgeting, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. And the danger of lifestyle creep, letting your spending just inflate.
And managing risk. Those robberies were a brutal lesson in why that's crucial.
Definitely. And then the investing side, the discipline needed for those simple, effective strategies, like just sticking with the S&P 500, dollar cost averaging.
Even when it feels scary.
Right. And then refining things, using ideas like 80-20 or lean thinking to cut the fat and focus.
But ultimately realizing that hitting the huge money goal wasn't actually the end game.
No, it was almost the start of figuring out what really matters, the investments that aren't about money at all.
It's so clear it wasn't just a straight climb. So many setbacks. The friend stealing his idea.
Ouch. Yeah.
The business getting wiped out by robberies. Losing money on those penny stocks.
Lots of lessons learned the hard way. He started out chasing passive income just to get his time back.
Then navigated that trap of his passion becoming his prison.
Found reliable growth through simple investing, got laser focused with B2B and cutting waste.
And finally landed on meaning through relationships and sharing knowledge.
Yeah. And that idea he mentioned about who you'll be in 5 years, depending on the people you meet and the books you read, it really hits home, doesn't it?
It really does. Underscores how much growth happens outside the financial spreadsheet.
Totally. So thinking about Mark's big revelation, about what truly matters beyond the millions, maybe here's something for you, the listener, to take away.
Yeah.
If you were to identify your own most valuable investments right now, maybe it's people, learning, experiences, health. How might focusing on those change how you approach your goals or even just how you spend your time starting today?
That's a really good question to sit with. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Mark Tilbury's journey.
Yeah, hope it gave you some interesting things to think about. Okay, let's get into this. What if you could find, totally new ways to earn money online? We're talking potentially serious amounts, maybe hundreds, even pushing past $900 a day sometimes. And the hook is, it's all using free websites and tools, stuff you might not even know about.
That's the big draw, isn't it? This idea that, significant online income could be within reach without needing a load of cash up front. And that's exactly what we're digging into today.
It is, yeah. This whole deep dive, it's built around one specific source. We looked at a transcript from a YouTube video called The Best 100 Websites to Earn Money Online for Free.
Right. And our mission here is really to, unpack that source, pull out the key insights, the surprising bits, the actual actionable stuff it talks about regarding these free methods.
We want to give you the fast track, basically, to understanding what this source thinks is most important.
Exactly. Finding those shortcuts to being informed about these specific opportunities.
Okay, so let's dive right into the first big strategy the source highlights. It's about using free stock media, like videos, to make simple content.
Yeah, straight away it points to websites like Pixabay and Pexels. It emphasizes they've got tons of stock videos you can just download and use for free.
And the strategy itself sounds almost, deceptively simple in the source, right? Just take these free clips and sort of stitch them together into montages for YouTube or TikTok.
And they give this really eye-opening YouTube example in the source, a health channel.
Okay.
Only 6 weeks old. But according to the source, in just the last month, it pulled in over 12,000 subscribers.
Whoa!
And 1.4 million views, all with these simple montage videos.
1.4 million views in 30 days.
Yeah. And the source estimated the earnings from AdSense, Google's ad program, at over $5,000 for that month, based on a $4 CPM cost per 1,000 views.
And what really struck me from the source description was just how basic these videos sounded. Like, literally just stock clips with simple AI voiceovers reading scripts about, I don't know, bay leaves or broccoli benefits, things like that.
And they actually list the free tools the source suggests for this, like McMonster for free AI voiceovers, short ones anyway.
Right, up to 300 words or something.
Yeah. And ChatGPT 3.5, the free version, you don't even need to sign up for to help plan and write the scripts.
Okay.
And then CapCut, which is a totally free video editor for web or phone.
So that covers YouTube, but then the source pivots to TikTok, suggesting maybe even higher potential earnings there. They mention CPMs from 50 cents up to maybe $2.
Well, again, for these simple montage videos, but they need to be a minute or longer on TikTok for that program.
Gotcha.
And they shared a TikTok example too, an account just 5 months old. One video got over 1 million views in only 4 days. And based on the total views they racked up in 1 week, over 13 million views.
13 million?
Yeah. The source calculated the earnings at around $6,570 for those 7 days.
Which works out to...
Well, do the math. It's like $939 a day.
Yeah.
On the low-end estimate.
Okay, that daily number, that really stands out. But, and this is crucial, the source itself flags a major limitation.
Yeah, this is important.
The TikTok Creativity Rewards program, the thing that pays the ad money, it's not available everywhere.
Right. Not all countries.
And the source explicitly says, if your country isn't eligible, probably best to stick with YouTube for this method. That's a key detail they included.
Absolutely. Can't ignore that. So, okay, that's the video strategy. But the source moves on quickly to something different for people maybe not into content creation.
Yeah, earning like guaranteed cash for doing simple online tasks.
Exactly. And it breaks this down. First up, AI training.
Right, mentioning sites like Remo Tasks and data annotation.
And the work sounds pretty straightforward, identifying objects in pictures, maybe marking directions on maps, basically helping train AI.
And the pay rate they quote.
Between $20 and $40 an hour, apparently.
Okay, $20 to $40 an hour sounds pretty good, but there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah. The source points out the big catch. These tasks are often first come, first served.
Ah, limited availability.
Exactly. So there's only so much work for any one person. They frame it much more as a side hustle.
Makes sense.
And they mention that some users in the source combine both sites, Remo Tasks and data annotation, just to try and get more hours in.
Okay. What else in the task category?
Game testing. This sounds kind of fun, actually.
Yeah.
The source says companies pay people to just play games and look for bugs before they release them.
And the sites mentioned?
Game Tester GG. They apparently have a free app, and Playtest Cloud.
And the appeal, I guess, is getting paid to play games.
Yeah, the source notes people enjoy it as a way to make some extra cash. But you guessed it.
First come, first served again.
Yep. Same limitation. Unlikely to be a full-time thing. So the source suggests signing up for multiple sites again. Playtest Cloud, and they even throw in inbox dollars.
Inbox dollars.
Yeah, though the source does note it pays less, focuses more on mobile games apparently.
Got it. Okay, next.
User testing. This one's interesting. The source claims big companies like Microsoft, Caspo, even McDonald's pay everyday people to test out their websites and apps.
And the main platform for this.
User testing is presented as the biggest one. And the pay structure they mention is pretty specific. $10 US for each 20-minute test.
$10 for 20 minutes. How does it work?
The source describes it as, well, pretty simple. You use a free app they provide to record your screen and your voice.
Okay.
And you just do simple tasks they ask, like try adding this item to your cart while explaining your thought process out loud, like what you're thinking as you do it.
And people actually make decent money.
They cite reports from Reddit users who claim to make an extra $500 to $1,000 a month doing this.
But I'm sensing a pattern here.
Huh, yeah. First come, first served strikes again. Limited tests available.
So the advice is?
Sign up for more sites. The source names Validately, Pingpong, and Userlytics as other options to try and get more test invites.
One more in this task section.
Yeah, focus groups and interviews, market research stuff. Sites like Dscout and Respondents are mentioned.
So these are like virtual group discussions.
Exactly. Participating in online focus groups or doing one-on-one interviews for research purposes.
And the pay. Is it better here?
It seems so, according to the source. They report rates like $40 to $50 an hour, sometimes much higher, like $75 or even over $200 for just one session.
Wow.
They mentioned one example equivalent to over 300 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah.
And a user quote about it helping them actually cover their bills.
But availability is still the issue.
Predictably, yes. Not usually enough work for a full-time income. So again, the strong recommendation from the source is sign up for multiple platforms. They list focusgroup.com, Build Voices, L&E Research, IntelliZoom, and user interviews.
Lots of options there.
Yeah, and interestingly, they specifically note that for the source creator, respondent offered opportunities in New Zealand pretty regularly, like every 1 to 3 days.
Okay, so that covers creating simple videos and doing various online tasks.
Yeah.
What's next? The source talks about leveraging skills you already have, right? Or selling digital things.
Exactly. That's the next big category, offering services or selling digital products.
So freelancing first.
Yeah. Using platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, and People Per Hour. Standard freelancing sites.
And the source highlights.
Well, Fiverr's free to sign up and list your services, your gigs. Upwork is free to join too, good for hourly or fixed price projects. People Per Hour is another place to list gigs.
And they suggest getting creative, not just offering the obvious stuff.
Right. They give this specific Fiverr example. Someone called Sky, apparently selling catchy business names or slogans for $170.
$170 for a name.
Yeah, and they had 11 orders in the queue when the source looked. And they make the point, maybe they're using something like ChatGPT to help generate ideas.
Clever. Okay, what about selling digital products? Not services, but actual files.
Yeah, the source talks about that too. Using marketplaces like Creative Market, Creative Fabrica, and Envato. The idea is you create a digital asset once.
Like what?
They give examples like Adobe Lightroom presets filters for photos. There's a really striking example of someone named Rachel supposedly earning $100K a year from those.
$100,000 from photo presets.
Apparently. Also things like mock-up photos, blank T-shirts or mugs people can put their designs on, or custom fonts.
And you can sell the same product on multiple sites.
That's a key point the source makes, yes. List the exact same digital product on Creative Market, Envato, wherever, to get more eyeballs on it.
Okay. What about writing? Well, ebooks.
Yep. Self-publishing ebooks is covered, using platforms like Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, Smashwords, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble.
And these are free to publish on.
Yeah, generally they take a percentage of your sales, but no upfront cost to list your book.
And the source had some insights on what sells.
It did, referencing Reddit users again.
Yeah.
Claiming that people hitting 6 figures a year often write fiction, specifically romance, sci-fi, fantasy, thrillers.
Interesting.
And apparently often with minimal marketing spend. Just consistently uploading new books to these free marketplaces.
Huh. Anything else on ebooks?
They mention a tool called D2D, Draft 2 Digital. It apparently helps by automatically distributing your ebook to lots of different stores for you.
Oh, that saves time.
Yeah, for a 10% cut of royalties. And again, they note ChatGPT 3.5 could potentially help with the planning or even drafting of ebooks.
Okay. And one more in this category, newsletters.
Right. Substack is introduced as a platform where you can create a newsletter that people pay a monthly subscription to read.
So paid content.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exclusive stuff for subscribers. And the source had a kind of surprising finding here.
Oh, yeah.
While many big newsletters build their audience elsewhere first, the source specifically found that newsletters in the romance and erotica niche were apparently earning regular money directly on Substack without massive external promotion.
Okay, that's the specific. Interesting detail from the source.
It is. So moving on from creating things or doing tasks, the source shifts again, this time to leveraging stuff you already own or space you have.
Right. Making money by lending or renting out your things.
Precisely. Your unused stuff. One example is renting out storage space.
How does that work?
Using sites like Neighbor or parking apps like Park and Just Park. The idea is simple. Got a spare garage space, empty closet, driveway spot, rent it out.
And the earnings.
The source quotes some specific figures. For Neighbor, users supposedly averaged $294 per hour of work. Now that hour of work likely refers just to the time setting up the listing.
Ah, okay. Not $294 an hour continuously.
Probably not, but still interesting. And for Just Park, they claim users have earned over $50 million total renting out parking spots.
Huh. What else can you rent out?
Baby gear, using a site called BabyQuip.
Renting strollers and stuff.
Exactly. Strollers, car seats, cribs. The source shares an example. Someone named Clara apparently scaled this up to earning over $5,000 a month after she invested in buying more gear to rent out.
Wow, okay. That's a niche.
Then there's renting out fun gear. The source mentions friend with A.
Friend with A. What kind of gear?
Things like mountain bikes, drones, kayaks, scooters, your personal recreational stuff. The source notes it has positive reviews from both the people renting the items and the people lending them out.
Okay, and cars too.
Yeah, Turo is mentioned for renting out your car when you're not using it, like peer-to-peer car sharing.
Makes sense.
Though the source does add a practical point here. If you're lending things directly like this, you probably need to be okay with meeting new people, handling the handovers.
Right, logistics. Okay, so another big strategy the source covers is more about building an audience, right? And monetizing that directly.
Exactly. Building a following and then offering content or memberships. Different ways creators earn beyond just ads.
So Instagram comes up.
It does. But the source explains Instagram doesn't have that simple built-in ad revenue share like YouTube or TikTok for most creators.
So how do people make money there, according to the source?
The main focus is sponsorships. Companies paying creators directly to promote their products.
Okay.
They give an example, an Instagram account called dogfur.soul. Grew to over 100K followers in less than 18 months, just posting dog memes.
Dog memes? Really?
Yeah. And then landed sponsorships from companies selling dog-related stuff.
Yeah.
The source even shows an example of a sponsored video ad they did.
And they estimate the earnings.
They explain how you could estimate it, using tools like Social Blade to find average likes, then plugging followers and likes into something like the Influencer Marketing Hub's calculator. For that specific dog meme account, the estimate was $400 to $600 per sponsored post.
Not bad for memes. Okay, what about online courses?
That's presented as a really powerful monetization method. If you have expertise or even just a strong following in a niche.
Platforms mentioned.
Thani and Teachable are highlighted. Both apparently offer a free plan to get started with one course.
And the big example here?
Oh yeah, the source talks about Miss Excel on TikTok, says she earns over $2 million a year selling Excel courses.
$2 million from Excel courses.
That's what the source claims, selling them via links in her TikTok bio. And she's not even officially sponsored by Microsoft or anything. But the key takeaway they emphasize is you don't need that level of following to make good money. Even a fraction could be significant.
And are there other places to sell courses? What if you don't have a big social media following?
Good question. The source brings up course marketplaces like Udemy and Skillshare.
How are they different?
With marketplaces, you don't necessarily need your own audience. The platform itself has users searching for courses, and they market the courses.
So they bring the students to you, potentially?
Kind of, yeah. But the payment models are different. Udemy generally pays you per individual course sale. Skillshare pays based on the total minutes of your courses watched by their paying subscribers.
And they give examples of success there, too.
They do. Someone named Scott reportedly earning over $17,000 a month passively from multiple Udemy courses.
17 grand a month passively.
That's the claim. And another example, a Skillshare teacher making $500 a month passively from just 3 classes about a specific technical drawing app. And this person apparently had almost no social media following outside Skillshare.
Interesting. And they mention video editing tools again.
Yeah, CapCut gets another mention as a free tool you can use to create and edit your course videos.
Okay. What about memberships for content?
Right. Content memberships. Platforms like Patreon are discussed. Also OnlyFans, which the source notes is primarily for the adult content niche. And another one called Fourth Wall.
And the model is simple. People pay monthly for exclusive stuff.
Exactly. Your readers or viewers pay a recurring fee, maybe $5 or $10 a month, for bonus content, early access, things like that.
And the source had a really wild example in this section, didn't it? The AI influencer.
Oh yeah, this was surprising. They detail this experiment using free AI image tools like focus stable diffusion and face swapping tech to create totally fake but realistic looking influencer photos. Then building an Instagram following for this fake persona.
And then monetizing it how?
Through a Patreon membership, offering exclusive photos of the AI influencer. The specific example account they mentioned, DoSpice, apparently grew really fast and had over 400 paying members.
400 people paying for AI photos.
Yeah, with the $10 a month tier being popular, according to the source, it's definitely out there.
It really is. What about Fourth Wall? You mentioned that one.
Right. The source highlights Fourth Wall, calling it very cool and an incredible bargain because it's free to set up.
Free?
Yeah. They say big creators use it. It lets you run monthly memberships, but also includes a free print-on-demand merchandise store right alongside it. So you can sell merch and memberships from one place.
Okay, that sounds useful. Now, Shifting slightly, the source also covers more traditional things, right? Like reselling stuff.
Yeah, adapting traditional business models for online platforms.
Yeah.
Reselling items and offering local services.
So reselling first. Platforms?
Familiar names here. Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Etsy, Craigslist, and Poshmark.
And the source had a specific drop shipping idea using Facebook and eBay.
It did. A simple arbitrage idea. Find an item listed cheaply on eBay, say for $147 with free shipping. Then list that same item for a higher price, maybe $175 on Facebook Marketplace. When someone buys it from you on Facebook, you turn around and buy it on eBay and have it shipped directly to your Facebook buyer.
So you never actually handle the product.
Exactly. Pocket the difference. Drop shipping.
What else about eBay?
They mention eBay offers free listings. Up to $250 a month was the number cited. And it supports print-on-demand integrations. They named Printerly as an example.
Print-on-demand on eBay? How?
You upload a design, say for a mug. The blank mug costs maybe $3 or $4 from Printerly. You list it on eBay for, say, $15. Or the source gave a UK example of £8, maybe $10 USD equivalent.
Okay.
When someone buys it on eBay, Printerly automatically prints your design on the mug and ships it to the customer. You just collect the profit.
And people sell many of these.
The source gives examples of simple mug designs selling hundreds of units this way. Passive income potential.
And Etsy comes up again here.
Yeah, revisited as a place to sell things you've designed or physically created, linking back to that digital and handmade goods idea. Craigslist is mentioned for general reselling of existing items, and Poshmark specifically for clothing and accessories.
Okay. What about local services?
The source really emphasizes local Facebook groups here, calls them an underrated way to start a service business.
Like what kind of services?
Gardening, cleaning, dog walking, maybe painting. Basic local services. The idea is you use groups for your town or neighborhood to find your first clients, get some jobs, get recommendations from neighbors.
Kind of old school networking, but online.
Exactly. And then they also list specific gig platforms for services too.
Right, like TaskRabbit.
Yeah, TaskRabbit for home tasks like furniture assembly, Rover for pet sitting or walking, Uber for ride sharing, Uber Eats for food delivery, and Instacart for grocery shopping.
And for Instacart, the source noted you don't need money upfront for the groceries.
Correct. Instacart handles the payment. You just do the shopping and delivery.
Got it. Okay, we're covering a lot of ground. What about live streaming? Did the source touch on that?
It did, as a distinct way to earn.
Which platforms?
It specifically highlighted Kick, mentioned it as a free streaming site that's competing hard with Twitch.
And people stream anything, not just games.
Right. The source pointed out that while gaming is huge, people stream all sorts of things. Crafts, studying, just chatting.
And the earning potential on Kick?
They gave an interesting example of a relatively small streamer, someone with only maybe 30, 40 average viewers, less than 400 followers total.
Okay, pretty small.
Yeah. But according to the source, this streamer was earning nearly $500 a month from 89 paid monthly subscribers. The source suggested that because Kick takes smaller fees and is less saturated right now compared to Twitch, it's potentially easier for smaller streamers to get noticed and build a paying subscriber base.
Interesting angle. What about streaming elsewhere simultaneously?
Yeah, they mentioned multi-streaming. Broadcasting your stream to Kick, Twitch, YouTube Live, TikTok Live all at the same time. Potentially more revenue streams that way.
Makes sense.
Though they did note Twitch takes a bigger cut of subscriber revenue.
Good to know. Okay, almost there. Did the source cover earning from, like, specific knowledge or expertise?
Yes. The final category was about getting paid for expertise or even just study notes.
Study notes? How?
Paid note-taking platforms. One class note-taker was mentioned free platform supposedly pays students $470 to take good notes for a course and sell them.
$470 for notes.
That's the claim. And another site, Stuvia, where students can just upload and sell their own study notes or summaries. They gave an example there of someone earning over $70,000 total selling study documents.
$70,000, wow. Okay.
And for teachers or educators, Teachers Pay Teachers was presented as a marketplace to sell teaching materials, lesson plans, worksheets, etc.
Makes sense. And expert Q&A.
Right, the site Just Answer came up again, mentioned earlier under tasks, but framed here as a place where verified experts in different fields, law, medicine, tech, antiques.
Right, the antique expert example.
Exactly. Nora, the antique expert, who the source claims earns over $10,000 a month answering questions on Just Answer.
Okay, so that's a huge range of methods covered in this one source. If we step back, what are the main themes or takeaways that jump out?
Well, a really strong, consistent theme is that many of these opportunities, according to the source, are genuinely free to start. That's the core promise.
Yeah, no big upfront investment needed for a lot of these.
Another big one is combining platforms. It comes up again and again.
Right. Don't just use one task site. Use several. Don't just sell on one marketplace. List on multiple. Multi-streaming. It's about scaling up.
Exactly. And the source definitely highlights various paths to potential passive income. Print on demand, selling digital assets, renting out stuff you own, maybe some membership models, affiliate marketing too.
And AI tools making things easier or faster is definitely a thread running through it. Scripts, voiceovers, ebook help, even those AI influencers.
Yeah, leveraging technology.
Right.
And also leveraging what you already have. Your skills, your knowledge, your empty garage, your car, your old baby gear.
It seems like a lot of it boils down to finding a platform that fits something you can offer or already possess.
And the source makes a point of showing examples where pretty simple ideas executed through these platforms apparently led to significant income for some people.
But it's also crucial, and the source does point this out, to be realistic about limitations, like geographic restrictions on some programs, like TikTok's.
Or the limited, unpredictable availability of tasks on sites like user testing or the AI training platforms. It's not always a guaranteed full-time thing straight away.
Right. Important caveats. So, bringing this all back around to you, the listener, we've just spent time unpacking this one specific source, looking at its perspective on earning money online for free.
We've gone through the specific examples and strategies it presented, from active work like tasks and services,
to creating simple content, selling digital goods, renting things out, building memberships, a really wide range.
Our goal was just to give you a clear picture of these specific opportunities as laid out in that source material we analyzed.
So, based on everything we've pulled out from this source today, what kind of clicks with you? Which of these approaches sounds maybe the most interesting or the most doable for you right now? Given your own skills, your interests, the time you have.
Yeah, think about what resonated as we went through it. This deep dive was about mapping out the possibilities presented in this source.
So, considering the huge variety of free platforms and, frankly, pretty simple strategies highlighted here, all drawn from that one source. We're talking making videos, testing websites, selling designs, renting out space, sharing what you know, using AI tools, lending stuff.
What unique combination of your own skills, maybe resources you haven't thought about, or just interests you have? What unique mix could you potentially leverage to create a brand new way to earn online, inspired by the possibilities laid out in this deep dive?